Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Debate Debrief. I will be your host for tonight, Lauren Chen, and with me is party leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier,
Hello.
and as well as candidate for the Westmount NDG riding, David Freiheit.
Yeah.
There we go. Good start.
I'll say hello to everyone watching on my channel. I would have done this live with Maxime had I not been a candidate, but I thought I might have lacked the partiality that is required and expected in order to hear Maxime's voice, although we did a live stream, was it almost a year ago now?
Yeah.
Right.
And it was great. But this is what I was joking earlier. This is what the media gets for not letting Maxime speak. You get collaboration between YouTubers, individuals, the power of the people, to now give Maxime the voice that was denied to him earlier this week.
But just for clarity's sake, I do not claim to be impartial. However, I can definitely say that I am no less impartial than the CBC and the political establishment who have barred you from appearing in the previous three leaders' debates. And actually, that's a great point to start at. So we have heard the leaders of the NDG, Green Party, Bloc Québécois, Conservative Party, and Liberal Party discuss their issues on different policies that affect Canadians. How does it feel not being included as part of that discussion, despite now polling, I think the latest numbers were at 10 or 12%?
Yeah, first of all, as you know, the rules were for us, the PPC, to have 4% on average in the polls in the beginning of the campaign. And I believe that we were there, but, we were not able to appeal that decision. So that being said, I campaigned all across the country. I was on the trail and speaking to people. But the worst of that is because there's still a lot of people that don't know that they have an option, don't know that the PPC exists. So for me, being there yesterday, I was not there, but that would have been a nice opportunity for me to express our point of view to more Canadians. But that being said, when I saw that debate, that was not a debate. I think it was a waste of time. They didn't have real discussion. The journalists were more leftist activists than journalists, and you have only 40 seconds to express a point of view when we are doing politics differently and we have a strong platform based on principles, and sometimes it will take more than 40 seconds to express your point of view. So I didn't have that opportunity to speak to Canadians, but I believe that Canadians were looking at that debate, watching the debate only for the first half hours. I believe that a lot of them were not following until the end. So we have a challenge today. I hope that our people will stay with us until the end.
Well, I think whoever watched it to the end only watched it so they can capture the bites that they can run on Twitter for posts, because it was a gong show, as we say. And the one thing that I think people who watch my channel know is the criteria to get into the debate. Nebulous is not the word. It's a formula. I've said it a dozen times. People still don't understand it. That in order to be invited to the federal leaders debate, you have to be polling at 4% or more, as determined by the group of selected pollsters, reputable pollsters, as measured in national polls from, I think it's 9 days before the issuance of the writ, which is calling the election, to 5 days after. And when I discovered that they had the PPC at 3.27%, but then I saw that they had excluded 6 polls. So they had 15 pollsters that they could have selected from. They used 9, one of which had the PPC at 0.2% ipsos.
Right.
So basically just the candidates are in support of the party.
It didn't even make any sense, because the PPC got 1.6% last federal election, so that on its face is preposterous.
Yeah.
But the rules were made so nebulous that you could literally pick and choose to arrive at whatever conclusion you wanted to arrive at. What's even more disconcerting, and it's something that I discovered recently, is that individual PPC candidates are being denied invitations to debates at the municipal local riding level for any number of reasons, all of which are equally offensive. Some of them, they're not vaccinated, so they're using that as an excuse. Others are adopting the federal criteria that existed at the time, and others are just, events occur without invitations being extended.
But speaking about debate, I actually did a debate a day ago in my own riding in Beauce, but the Conservative candidate Double vaccinated, good for him. I respect everybody. And as you know, I decided not to have the vaccine. So he was looking at a lot of excuses for me to not be there. And the last one was, oh, Bernie didn't have the vaccine. He's the only one. I don't want to debate with him. So what the radio station did, because it was a radio station, I was in one studio alone, and all the three others were in another studio. So segregation there, but I had fun. I think I won that debate, and I have the opportunity to express my point of view, to speak about what I believe to people in both, and we'll see what will happen. But you have discrimination and segregation, and you're right. Some of our candidates are telling us, they don't want me to debate. I believe that the mainstream media is afraid of our message. They know that it's powerful, and they know if we have more opportunity, we'll be able to have more people on our side.
Well, you've both mentioned the issue of vaccine segregation, and I think a lot of Canadians are very interested in that. But for the people who maybe aren't exposed to the PPC as of yet and who missed out on that opportunity because you were not included in the debates, what would be, I guess, your elevator pitch of what the party stands for?
We're not anti-vaccine, we're not anti-mask, we're for freedom, so we are for freedom of choice. Everybody must be able to decide what they want to do, if they want to have the vaccine or not. We respect everybody, the decision of everybody. And I can say, the slogan that the feminists were using a couple of years ago, my body, my choice, that's a slogan that I like today, our body, our choice, and everybody must be able to decide what they want to do. So that's our party. You can add something.
I was going to say, it's ironic. Kamala Harris was on Twitter today saying the woman's right to choose what is done to her body is not negotiable. And then I, tongue-in-cheek responded, I guess women can decide not to get vaccinated. But when people come to us and they say, elevator pitch, I think you guys are anti-vaxxers, I think you guys are anti-science, I think you guys are anti-immigrant racists. I say, well, there's a difference between being anti-vax and anti-vaccine passports, and I'm double vaccinated, despite the fact that it did irk some of my viewers who said I succumbed to the pressure. Everyone's going to feel the way they want. I made my own decision.
I thank you that you accept me around your table.
No, but the political cowardice to exploit, to weaponize the vaccination status to avoid debate, as if, even assuming you might be carrying something, Maxime, the asymptomatic, pre-symptomatic person poses such an existential threat that you can't sit in the same room not knowing that it's been weaponized and politicized for political purposes and for the individuals who try to get out of a debate for political cowardice purposes. But my three-line elevator pitch, we're not anti-vaccine, we're anti-vaccine passports, and that just means being pro-constitution and respecting rights, not anti-science. We all agree pollution is bad, minimize pollution. But the Paris Accord doesn't do that. It actually probably does the exact opposite. So does carbon taxes. And anti-immigrant, it is not because you don't want to use immigration as cheap labor that makes you anti-immigrant or racist. I would actually dare say the exact opposite is true. We want to protect Canadians, make sure that the Canadians of all races, creeds, ethnicities are being cared for properly before you start talking about having more kids. A responsible parent does not have more kids until they can take care properly of the ones they already have.
Absolutely.
Right. So right now the issue of vaccine passports is huge, not on the provincial level only, but also the federal level. Justin Trudeau has announced that he intends to, if he remains in office, mandate vaccine passports for air travel, travel by train, and I think by sea as well. And he's also incentivizing provinces to develop their own vaccine passport programs to the tune of $1 billion, I think. What would you say to the Canadians out there who are concerned about COVID, that it's still a risk, and they actually view the vaccine passport as a way to, quote, return to normal?
It is not the case. Actually, in Quebec, they call the vaccine passport the freedom passport. That's the opposite.
Your freedom papers.
Yeah, that's the opposite. It's like in 1984, peace is war, war is peace. So I'm tired of all that. The reality is that is happening right now in this country. It is a discrimination. It is segregation. And actually, every Canadian is in the same boat. Everybody can spread the virus. That's important. Yes, I understand that people who decided to take the vaccine, their risk to spread the virus is minimum, but everybody can do that. So why doing that discrimination? And it's not based on science anymore. It's based on big government control. And I believe that now you'll have in Ontario, they will come with the vaccine passport before the end of this month. And for me personally, I won't be able to travel after this election because Trudeau said it will be enforced maybe in beginning of October or something like that. But I can tell you, I will travel and I will fight that. I went into a jail because I did a political gathering in a park. It was unconstitutional, illegal, unfair, everything, and I will travel in Canada, and that's my right. That's my constitutional right. You're a lawyer, David. You know it.
I know what I believe the law says, and I know what I believe about these measures. But you imagine also just the utter hypocrisy. You are put in jail for hosting a rally of a few dozen people in a park in Alberta. Eight. Literally, it was either 3 days before or 3 days after Trudeau, Ford have a massive 1,000-person rally in Ontario as a result of that terrible incident that occurred, the individual who drove his car into the family. So, it's a political opportunism where, they'll make exceptions when they want to, and then they will come down with the full fist of fury when they want to. But the vaccine passport, I haven't used it yet, but I've been thinking it's like Jerry Maguire. Show me the science show me the science that says that a vaccine passport does anything other than create a new limit from which the government is going to start taking your rights. We are in Canada, it's over 81% people over 12 fully vaccinated. And we were told from the beginning, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Never going to be mask mandates, never going to be compelled vaccinations. If we just reach 70%, things go back to normal. At some point, we've said this before and I'll say it again, we're going to have to learn to live with the virus before we learn to live with injustice, because for all intents and purposes, the virus is never going to go away in as much as any virus has ever gone away. And so you're going to have to learn to live with it, take the measures to protect the actual vulnerable, not just to penalize everyone. And also learn to live with a virus, learn to live with a situation without crushing the very civil liberties that make life worth living in the first place.
And you said that they were telling us 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Now I'm telling people 2 weeks to flatten the lies. That would be important to vote the 20th of September.
Imagine, it's a moving target to the point where now people think that the vaccine passport is going to help us get back to normal. How does it do that? When you're dealing with the levels of vaccination that you have now, you don't want to have a public debate, or I call him Supreme Leader, Sunset Thief, and now I'm calling him the childhood thief. François Legault says, I don't want to have a public debate on this because I don't want citizens being exposed to misinformation. And so no debate, edict, fiat, one after the other.
And no debate yesterday also about that. They were on the same page, like usual, on COVID-19.
That's an interesting thing, we'll get into it, but the journalists, their questions presuppose the premises which are at issue here. Is the vaccine passport good for anything? But their presupposition is it's good for something. The only question is more of it better? And no one was attacking the underlying actual issues because they all agreed with each other. And it's great to have a debate when you all agree. It's just a question of how much. How much vaccine passport? How much? $1 billion on an app. That's what I also can't get over. Don't put the $1 billion into the healthcare system. Put it into an app fund. You got to have your head examined to think that makes sense.
Well, I've heard a lot of PPC supporters say that they oppose the vaccine passport system because it is anti-freedom. To which people like Justin Trudeau actually recently replied, what about my freedom to travel safely with my children? I believe he implied that those people, referring to vaccinated people, were putting us all at risk, specifically children who are currently not able to get the vaccine. I think it's anyone below the age of 12, if I'm
for now.
Yeah, for now. What would you say to his assertion that by being unvaccinated or by allowing the unvaxxed into these spaces, we are actually putting children's lives literally at risk?
I'm telling him, do you believe in your own vaccine? The vaccine is supposed to be good for you. And I believe that it's good. If you have COVID-19, you'll have mild symptoms. We know that. So we're not putting anybody at risk. And when he said that, we are putting our own kids at risk. And other kids. It's a lie, it's propaganda, it's divisive, and that Justin Trudeau is the most divisive prime minister in the history of our country, by race, by gender, and now by vaccination status. I'm fed up of that, and I believe that I'm not the only one. We are Canadians, and everybody must be unite, and that's our goal. We want to unite all Canadians under the freedom umbrella.
For me, it's a little. Maybe I'm one step further. It's disgusting to invoke children as the tools of political propaganda. Chris Kalitza on Twitter, he writes for CNN, said the same thing today. Like, when are these people just going to get vaccinated so my 9-year-old's not at risk? Right. And I sent him the statistics. Like, you either trust the science or you don't. You either trust the statistics or you don't. And for the people saying trust the science, I flipped him the statistics of hospitalization rates of children under 12. I mean, it's insignificant, not to say that when it happens it's not serious, but it happens more with the ordinary flu. The deaths from COVID, it was anywhere between 0.00% and 0.003% or 0.03. I said, these are the stats, so you either trust the science or you don't, but to use your 9-year-old as a political pawn to promote fear porn propaganda, it's par for the course in politics, but it makes everybody panic. It triggers that part of the brain where people stop thinking rationally and they start looking at everyone like, unless you're vaccinated, you are an existential threat to my 9-year-old, and it's unscientific, it's just panic.
And it's not based on the statistic, because now we know younger people under 20 years old, only 15 of them, it's too much, but only 15 of them died from COVID, and the majority of them had comorbidities. 15 on 27,000 people who died from COVID here in Canada. So there's more young people below 20 years old that are dying every year. 65 every year are dying from what is the disease? I don't remember the name of the disease, but there's more people who are dying than other disease than COVID-19.
As far as kids go, I mean, any parent knows from experience, the ordinary flu lands kids in the hospital. So you say, like, get the vaccine and then it'll be back to normal. But if this is the new threshold, if this virus with these statistics is the new threshold, that is one heck of a new starting point for the government to say, well, and we've heard Justin Trudeau, you pointed it out, invoking the pandemic response language to climate change. It's only a question as to where they springboard from here into.
And actually, that's a great transition into maybe another good topic, which is climate change. The other leaders, it seemed to be a competition as who could outregulate the Canadian economy. When it comes to things like a carbon tax or carbon caps, I think Erin O'Toole got the most flack for not having, no targets, but just simply not extreme ones enough. What would you say to Canadians who care about the environment? Because no one enjoys seeing, for example, filthy air or polluted streams, but there are still many Canadians who worry that these regulations will have an impact on the economy, on, for example, their ability to heat their homes. How do we balance those two issues?
Yeah, we can do it, easily, because what you look at climate change, people will say, oh, the People's Party, they don't believe in their denier of the climate change. No, the climate is always changing, and we understand that. But, look at the facts. Canada represents less than 1.6% of all the global emission on the planet. So we cannot save the planet first. But Trudeau and O'Toole and all these other leaders are speaking like, we must do something in Canada because we will save the planet. And there's no climate emergency. That's being said, a carbon tax won't solve the problem, and it will be worse for Canadians. It will hurt our economy, it will hurt our way of life, and it's happening right now in this country. So yes, all these three leaders were the same on that. What we are seeing, the good news on that, we won't do anything on carbon, the carbon tax, and the Paris Accord. We won't sign that. But yes, we still have in Canada lakes that are polluted, rivers that are not clean. So we must do something there. We will take concrete actions for the environment, but we won't impose a tax to fight climate change, and we won't give money to African countries under dictatorship to fight climate change. Because I believe that these dictators, I'm pretty sure that they don't put the money over there to fight climate change.
It's the easy demonizing, like anti-vax, because nobody wants to understand the nuance between vaccine passports and vax. Anti-climate.
Yeah.
We all agree. First of all, I told this to Maxime when we first met. Like, if the party were anti-climate, I wouldn't be here. I love fishing. I love camping. I love Canada for that very reason. To go from there to say, well, if you don't support the Paris Accord and if you don't support carbon taxes, you're anti-environment, you're out in left field, because we know this. Canada represents, what, 1.5, 1.6% of the global emissions.
Yeah.
Operating on the basis that emissions are the ultimate pollution. Some people disagree, but let's operate on that basis. You could shut down you could shut down Canada. It will not have any impact on global emissions. It will actually only increase them, because everything will get outsourced, as it's been doing right now, to China and India, the number one polluters, both overall and objectively. And the way the politicians dishonestly get out of that argument, China, I think, produces more pollution or more emissions than the developed world combined.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so what do? They say, oh, well, per capita, Australia is bad. Per capita, Canada's bad. So, I mean, that's a double whammy right there, because China gets to pollute everything, and they get to amortize their pollution per capita, because they're also massively overpopulated. So they get to pollute and contribute to global overpopulation, and somehow Canadians are expected to cripple manufacturing, become utterly dependent on foreign countries for certain things that we could otherwise be manufacturing here, and you end up outsourcing the pollution. So you feel good about what you're doing, because, it's virtue signaling at a political level, but the impact is actually worse than if you just did nothing at all, or it's even worse than if you just did something actually practical, like, hypothetically, impose a carbon tariff on stuff coming in from the polluting countries, so you can bring back manufacturing. We do it well here. We do it very responsibly here. Probably, I think we could all agree, more responsibly than in China and in India.
Absolutely.
And bring back manufacturing, stop being dependent on foreign countries, and build our economy and protect our economy.
And speaking of stopping being dependent on foreign countries, Canada, as we all know, is a resource-rich nation. We're very, very fortunate in that regard. But an increasingly divisive issue when we look at Canadians, I guess, geographically, is the issue of oil. You have a lot of Western Canadians who see this anti-oil Trudeau government, and I don't think it would be, I think even they would agree with that designation. And they feel like their economic opportunities are being stifled. What do you think the federal government's role should be in monitoring or regulating things like oil pipelines?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to have the discussion, and it's too bad that during the debate yesterday they didn't have that discussion. That's important because it's not only important for the prosperity of our country, but it's important for the unity of our country. I'm traveling across the country. I know that in Alberta, there's about 30% of the population that are thinking to separate from Canada. When you have that, you must have an answer to that. Right. But the mainstream politicians don't want to touch that because they don't want to give an answer, and it's okay for them. But no, that's why I believe that people understand that we need to have a national debate about pipelines, about the prosperity of this country. And when I'm saying that yes, our party is for pipelines, we can build pipelines that will be safe for the environment and safe for the population in 2021. And everybody understand that it's safer to transport oil and gas by pipelines than by trucks or trains. So let's have that discussion. And all the gas that is going to the Trudeau Airport in Montreal on the ground, it's by pipeline from the Port of Montreal. And so we have pipelines in Quebec, and that's only the politician in Eastern Canada and in Quebec, our provincial government, that is against pipeline because they are listening to the radical environmentalists. So we need to have the discussion. We are open, and we can do that. It's a federal jurisdiction. We use the Constitution, Section 9210, and like that, the federal government will have the full authority, the full jurisdiction, and it will be able to approve pipelines projects. And I think we need that. When I'm speaking about that in Eastern Canada, in New Brunswick, they know that it will create jobs over there, and in Montreal. So, but no, pipelines, the environmentalists, radical one, are saying, it's bad. But that's our position, and the other parties are the same on that.
I want to say, everyone out there, if you want to have your minds blown the way my mind was blown when I first did a video on the pipeline, Google the oil pipelines in Canada, existing ones. You're going to see a network that you didn't know already exists. And so to pretend, again, like it's a new problem, is politically disingenuous. But the other issue is people like to say, okay, well, let's go green, let's go electric, and don't do at least any actual discussion about the mechanics of this. Like, okay, lithium batteries are good, except you're mining these rare earth minerals somewhere else, so you don't see the pollution. You got to charge the cars, so people don't really like to pay attention to the pollution that comes from hydro dams. Do you need to build new hydro dams? Or what damage did those cause in the first place? So there is a balance, and there's a discussion that has to be had between the risks and the pollution of one form of energy versus what we refer to as green energy, without really stopping to think about what goes into getting those minerals for those batteries, what goes into disposing them afterwards, what goes into charging them when you have them. Those all leave footprints. And so the question is finding the one that leaves the most efficient, or the combination that leaves the most efficient footprint. But you, again, demonized into not even having the discussion, because if you talk about oil, you are a radical person from out west who, whatever stereotypes they have, which does lead to the disunity of the discussed Wexit, where people are just fed up with one portion of the country dictating policy for the other portion of the country.
Now, you mentioned green energy, and that was a huge topic of the debate last night, and it seems like most of the other parties are in favor of some sort of subsidy program for green energy, investing in green energy. What is your response to that? Do you think that the federal government should have a role in trying to develop these technologies?
No, it would be the free market. I believe if you're an entrepreneur and you want to have support, you will try to please your consumers. So more and more people are asking for green energy, yes. So we have more electric cars right now. They are moving their production to answer that request from their consumers. The free market can do that. Yes, there's some program that can help to be able that these cars would be more affordable, but that's not the first thing that we must do in this country. We are broke. We are broke, and now they were saying spending money. Everything is about money. So let's be serious. Let's be fiscally responsible. Let's balance that budget. And maybe after that, the first priority would be to lower the taxes to Canadians, and we'll look. But also, this is a shared jurisdiction with provinces. So there's program at the provincial level that promote the Canadians for buying a green electric cars. Same thing in Ontario. So why the federal government again put more programs on that? Let's clean the house. Be sure to balance the budget, and the free market will always try to answer the needs of their consumers, and that's becoming right now. You have more electric cars.
I just say, like, once you also start talking about the government collecting money, then divvy out to certain entities. I mean, from what I understand, it didn't work all that well when Obama did it, and it tends to lead to corruption. It tends to lead to everyone taking their cut of the investment. There could be cost-effective ways of subsidizing, like maybe tax credits which already exist, but the idea of financing is one thing. It tends to lead to waste, but the flip side is, yes, they're already developing them in tandem. The thing is, you develop them in tandem, you don't choke one off until you're not dependent or more dependent, or can get by with other means. And what they're trying to do is, mother is the necessity of all invention, but at some point you have to be realistic, and if you want to phase into something else, you will let that exploit over time, and we're seeing it. I mean, Teslas are everywhere now.
Solar panels.
Solar panels are everywhere, but they don't come without their own problems. It's like, people always talk about, we get rid of plastic bags, single-use plastic bags, so you get those recyclable bags. Nobody stops to think about the footprint that those bags make. How many plastic bags go into that bag? And then when that bag tears, you chuck it in the garbage, get another one. There's an equation, there's a balance that you have to talk about and figure out and calculate with all of these decisions, but when something's good, other things bad, you can avoid all discussion altogether.
Yeah, I saw an article not too long ago talking about, because cotton is so resource intensive when it comes to the use of water, how it's actually bad for the environment, all of these cotton bags. So I'm just like, I just want to buy my groceries. Like, just tell me what to do, I'll do it. I don't know.
And we use something called loofah baskets, great free publicity, loofah baskets, where they deliver it in plastic bins.
Right.
Everything's in paper bags. If it has a bag, you take it out, you put the boxes back on your porch, and minimal waste, if any. And it works great. Those plastic bins, they don't break often, and they can be used forever. The market has a way of finding it out, figuring out the solution. But the idea that you just take money to start giving to companies to do some research, and things always go sour, but people always make off with some good money in the process.
So I'm listening to your responses here, and I know that people maybe watching this are somewhere screaming at the screens, but you're not treating this like an emergency, like a crisis. Where is that sense of urgency? And that is something we especially saw the NDP, the Green Party, and Trudeau himself really try to drive home in the debate that these maybe extreme measures are necessary because we're dealing with an extreme situation. What's your position on that?
Absolutely, you're right. There's no emergency there. There's no climate emergency, climate alarmism. No, they are using that and to push some programs and in line with their socialist philosophy. That's what they want. And I'm saying no. The urgency right now is the inflation that we are paying. If you do your grocery, 5-6% inflation, and with all that spending that these leaders are telling you that they will spend, the conservative or the liberal, they will spend money for the next 10 years. They won't balance the budget. The inflation will be worse than that, than 5-6%. We are paying right now. Inflation is a hidden tax. You cannot buy the same amount of services or goods with your money because your purchasing power is going down, your standard of living is going down, and all these establishment politicians were saying, oh no, we can spend more, and there's an urgency here for green technology. No, we don't have the money, and we are paying the emergency right now. It's the COVID-19 crisis, the vaccine passport that they impose on us, all these draconian measures, and the inflation, and everybody is becoming poor right now in Canada, not tomorrow, right now.
I was just saying, like, you know how you get someone to make the wrong decision? You get them to panic right before they make the decision. Get a timer over their heads, and you see the red lights flashing down. They'll make the wrong decision, and they'll panic. I mean, so even if it is a serious issue, let's even say that some people think it's an emergency. It doesn't mean you make rash decisions based on panic, which is what they effectively want you to do. You have AOC saying we have 12 years left. Okay, when you have lived through the era, and it was a little bit before my time, but when you lived through the era where they were literally saying we're going to head into another ice age if we don't stop certain emissions, and when you've lived through the age where you now don't just understand, but you fully recognize the media thrives off panic for their model, their industry, you then realize that maybe the panic is manufactured panic, specifically so you can get people to stop thinking, just act reflexively and support whatever the government wants to do, which is going to increase the government, but not necessarily even solve the problem. And you talk about people getting poorer. What do they do when they get poorer? They start buying cheaper products, cheaper crap made in China, which actually will just exacerbate the environmental problem. So even if it is a crisis, even if it is 12 years left, which Maybe I'm an anti-climate denier.
I think it'd be like 10 years by now.
It might be 9. Yeah. Maybe this makes me a climate denier because I think we have more than 9 years. We might have some issues.
And everybody would give you more money. Yes, your pension, it's important, would be more generous. And I look at the lady, I say, nothing. I cannot. We are broke. I won't do anything for you. I won't pander to your votes. We need to have serious conversation. And now the goal is to balance the budget. But the politicians, usually doesn't like to speak like that, tell the truth. But when you're saying that, I think you gain more credibility. And yesterday they were saying, everybody was saying, we're going to give you more money to housing and all these problems. But that's not the solution. I think the solution is we have the Bank of Canada, that is the Bank of Canada has a target inflation of 3%. That's why also that's an impact why the houses are costly, but also immigration. You need to look at it globally. We have more immigrants, 400,000 people a year. 41% of them are going to big cities, Toronto and Vancouver. So that's put pressure on the price of houses over there. So we need to look at it globally. And the solution is not to build more affordable housing. We need to look at, because we are doing that for the last I don't know how many years, and we still have the same problem. So we must look at another solution, more in line with free markets. So that's why I was not surprised. I was, it's a politician telling you that I can give you something today, but everybody will pay for that right now or tomorrow. That was not responsible. And O'Toole actually said the same thing, because in the French debate, and he didn't say the same thing in English, but in the French debate, when he had the question about how will you balance the budget, he said, I'll do that in 10 years. Yeah, but tell us how you, and after, he was speaking like a politician, he answering the question, but you don't have the answer. But just at the end, he said, without cuts. So what he said is the budget balance itself, like Trudeau.
No, it's probably can't add much. It's just you create, the bigger the state gets, the more dependent people get on it, and then the more frightened they get when you talk about cuts, because you have people who become dependent on the state. But the government is not a money-making industry. They get their money from taxpayers. So you have three choices. You get people to make more money, to pay more taxes, or you get the government to spend less money, or you get the government to make money through other means than selling weapons to Saudi Arabia type thing. And so it's one of those three options. Yeah. But there is, you've been in the government, I haven't, I just know what I see in terms of $1 billion to CBC, $600 million to the media.
That buys a lot of favorable coverage.
No, but you got to grease the wheels. The punchline was that he was showing unfavorable headlines, people, so no one accuses me of misinformation. There's a lot of fat to be trimmed from that government stake without even getting to essential stuff. And at some point, people might have to realize, to their own benefit, that they can probably do better for themselves than they can by being dependent on government for certain government jobs, which are, jobs that might not necessarily be value added to the overall economy when they come at a cost from taxpayers who are financing them. So when some people lose their jobs, or at least are phased out of one job, it forces evolution in another, and it might not be to the detriment of society as a whole, or even those individuals. But man, when you find out where the government's wasting money, $150 million a year on COVID ads, billions on our media, there's fat to trim that would not take away from the quality of the meal. So
don't forget foreign aid. We can save $5 billion there by cutting foreign aid and bringing back that money home.
That's intolerant, Maxime.
So that's the answer from the left. And I always said, we are generous Canadians, but we are able to help other countries if there's a environmental disaster or humanitarian crisis. Yes, we'll be there, but it's not our role to give money to China in a development bank over there to help China to have more influence in Africa. That's not our job. That's not our job to give money to build roads in Africa. So yes, we will be there if there's a crisis, but we must be realistic that we cannot save the world.
And also just from the same sort of welfare ideology is that, first of all, these other foreign countries to which Canada gives have their own governments. And when you just give money to foreign governments that are sometimes corrupt, sometimes not spending that money properly, it doesn't cause them to be responsible. So you are actually only exacerbating the very same problems you think you're solving by giving money away to to certain countries, to certain governments. You're actually exacerbating the problem. So again, it makes you feel good while you do it, but it doesn't even solve the very problem that you want to solve. And sometimes, call it tough love or just call it economic realities. If you don't give your money to certain corrupt regimes that are not even going to spend it properly, you're going to do good for both Canada and the world.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen from the Trudeau government that foreign aid has been a staple of his time in
Canada is back.
office.
Canada is
Canada
back.
is back, spreading the wealth everywhere, except for maybe Canada. But something else that I suppose relates to foreign development in the same way is that the Trudeau government has also made it a priority to let in, like you said, many refugees. Or not even refugees, but migrants in general. We're not even talking specifically people who are fleeing war-torn or dangerous situations. Now, you have mentioned immigration in relation to the housing crisis driving up costs. There are people out there who will argue that actually on the flip side, all of these immigration numbers increasing is actually good for the Canadian economy because these are workers, these are purchasers, and therefore we're actually growing our economy. Do you think there's any merit to that argument?
No, because if you look at the statistic right now, in the 400,000 people, immigrants that will come next year, 76% of them are refugees or people coming on the reunification of family. Reunification of family is when a skilled immigrant is coming here because that person has a job in Canada and Canadian entrepreneur was not able to find a Canadian for that job. He or she has the right to have another person coming from another country to help. And so we call them skilled immigrants or economic immigrants. And only 24% of them are economic immigrants that are participating in our society right now, that are able to contribute to our society. And also it's easier for that person to be part of our society when you have a job. And so 76 of them are people, it can be grandmom, the uncle, and all these people that are coming, and they will participate in the society, but not now, maybe in 5 years, in 10 years, and we have to pay for that. So let's build immigration in line with our economic needs, and that's not what we are doing. It's mass immigration. We believe in sustainable immigration, and we are the only party on that subject also, but we want to have that discussion because we love this country. We don't want our country to be like in France where there's no go zone over there and the integration is not perfect. We want people that will come here, share our values, participate in our society. That's generous. That's not selfish, and help us to build this country, not build back better.
I don't have much to add. I mean, it's an interesting. I just noticed that we've gotten to a point possibly where housing prices are so high that it seems that, and Canadian purchasing power is so low that it seems that the only people who, or not the only people, but rather a substantial or meaningful portion of people who have the money to invest in Canadian real estate are not Canadian. And so that effectively takes the houses out of the market for Canadians. The price continually goes up because our purchasing power goes down because of certain government decisions, and it exacerbates the problem. What the solution is and what they're proposing now, it's interesting because, again, it's almost as though they have not been in power for 6 years knowing this to implement the very same solutions they're promising on the eve of an election. We've known about this for a long time. I've known about it since the last time I went to British Columbia. I got family in Toronto. We've known about this. But, the government only finds solutions to their own government-created problems on the eve of an election. It's amazing. It's an amazing phenomenon.
But to play devil's advocate for people who I know are going to be saying this doesn't talk of limiting or lowering immigration levels, sort of paint Canada as a less than welcoming country. Isn't it our duty as people in a prosperous nation to open up our arms and take in people who are seeking a better life for themselves?
Yeah, we are, but not everybody can be Canadians. We cannot save the world. And our immigration policy, when I unveiled that policy at the last election in 2019, a lot of immigrants were there in the room. I did that in Toronto. They agree with that because they came here by following the rules. And now it's an open bar. Everybody can come, and they don't like that. They came here and they had to follow the rules. Now it's not the same thing. And a lot of these people are not part of our society right now. We are not anti-immigration. We like the diversity of this country. We want this country to be like that, but we're not like Justin Trudeau, believing in diversity and always more and more diversity. Trudeau is the guy that believes in the cult of diversity. Everybody must be different, and promoting every ethnicity, every race, and having a program. You're a black entrepreneur, you need a program. We will abolish that. If we have a program for entrepreneur, it would be for every entrepreneur, not only black entrepreneur. That racial politics, extreme multiculturalism, mass immigration, it is destroying our country. And so I'm telling, yes, we'll be generous. Right now, like I said, 76% are relocation of family and refugees, but we are not helping the real refugees. If you want to be generous and open your arms, you must help the real refugees where they're waiting, where their life is in danger in a camp somewhere in another countries. Now what we're doing, people crossing the border in Quebec and coming from the state of New York, their life is not in danger over there. So it's not fair. These people are jumping the queue, and the real ones are in danger in a camp somewhere.
I'll push back on your pushback, Lauren, and I'll suggest that people look at Canada and say it's a prosperous nation, it's a rich country. If people knew the statistics of children living in poverty in Canada, and I think it's 1 in 5 children are living in poverty, or 1 in 5 children don't have enough to eat. In my area near Saint Michel, something like 1 in 3 kids are on 1 meal a day. They're given backpacks of food when they go home for the weekend because they don't have enough to eat. And the indigenous populations don't have clean drinking water. I mean, you have homelessness, you have drug addiction, you have problems everywhere in Canada. And the idea that, imagine just being one of these kids who doesn't have enough to eat, or the indigenous population which has been waiting for clean drinking water for decades, and you're saying, well, things are so well here, you're all rich, you may not be able to drink clean water, you might have some of the most awful living conditions objectively, not just by Canadian standards. It's a rich country, deal with it. We're going to take other people in before we actually solve our own problems. I mean, that does a disservice not just to Canada as a whole. I mean, that does a disservice to Canadian values. I mean, we get your own problems under control. Make sure that we have it'll never be realistic, but get hungry children, people living in poverty under control. Get clean drinking water to our indigenous populations before you start trying to play savior for the world while you're ignoring your own kids.
Yeah, you're speaking like Jordan Peterson. Do your bed first in the morning, and after that, you'll be able to help yourself, and after that, you'll be able to help others. That's what you're saying.
You say Jordan Peterson, you know what people are going to accuse us of. But it's an amazing thing. Like, we're just, responsible values have been demonized at the altar of the appearance of generosity, when it is in fact just penalizing everyone in the long run.
Well, I mean, since there's no Liberal representation here, or NDP or Green or Bloc Québécois, I guess my question to you both is, you talk about the fact, and it's not just an assertion, it is a fact that there are Canadians who are struggling, no running water on far too many reserves in Canada. You have drug problems, homelessness, general poverty, especially exacerbated over the past 2 years, yet you are both talking about cuts and spending reductions. Do you honestly believe that the way to help these people is actually by decreasing government spending? And if so, would you mind laying out exactly for people how less government spending equals more prosperity for Canadians?
First of all, we must say that all these spending are not going to people. Green energy and all. It's not going to people. It's going to corporation, and they try to create jobs. And we must believe in the free markets. To help the people first is to be able to give them their own money in their own pockets. I wish I can tell you, and I can tell Canadians that yes, you'll be richer tomorrow. I'll be elected, and I'll give you $1,000 more. We cannot. I don't have. You need to work, and after that you have your salary, and you produce something for the society. The government is the problem. The government is not the solution. And everything that the government is doing, clean water on reserve, that's not new. But the government is not able to solve that. Give that responsibility to people that are living there, give them the resources, and we have policy for that for First Nation, having a new relationship with them. But that being said, I wish I can tell them that but you'll be richer. But when you cut 1.2 billion to CBC, that will help everybody. When we cut foreign aid, that will help everybody. The money will come back here. So the cuts that I'm speaking about, it's something that is not under the jurisdiction of the federal government, and it's not. I won't cut their pension. We won't cut employment insurance. We will cut extra spending that are not in line with our constitution, that we cannot afford, and like we are acting like a very rich country, and we did the biggest deficit in the history of our country. So we're not the richest country on the planet. So we need to do this difficult decision. And it's not so difficult to cut 1.2 billion to CBC and to cut foreign aid or to cut corporate welfare. We can save $5 to $10 billion by cutting corporate welfare. And balancing the budget, if you are looking at the data coming from the Trudeau government, the last year of the first mandate, the deficit would be around $15 billion. And I think at that time...
That's enough for 15 different Vax Passport apps.
Yeah.
And Lauren, I appreciate the question, because the question again presupposes a certain supposition that's baked into the question. Like when everyone talks about cuts, it's the big bad boogeyman who's literally going to the orphanage and saying, we're cutting your funding this year. No, that's not what the cuts mean. And the funny thing is, like, a family tries to save nickels and dimes, and then they don't realize that a $400 charge has been going through their credit card for the last month. When you're talking about where you make the cuts, there's massive areas where it will have tremendous impacts in terms of how that could be otherwise redistributed to the actual people who are in need. It's not a question of cutting the funding to the institutions that need it the most. It's just cutting the fat so that you can actually save some money and then even look at redistributing or spending it properly. Like I was talking with the daycare professionals in my neighborhood, and knowing what they make in a year, and then knowing what other government officials make in a year, knowing what the chief medical officers of certain cities are making, $400,000 a year.
Wow.
Knowing that they're spending, the COVID ads are the easiest one just to think of offhand.
Yeah.
$500,000 for an ad, while these schools don't have proper air circulation, and while the government doesn't want to put in air quality tests because they don't have the money, but they sure do cash their checks every day of the week. So,
but they have the money for the ad propaganda.
No,
COVID-19 propaganda.
They have money to $150 million on ads. They have $600 million for media. Imagine what that money could go to, and imagine how much you could save, and then properly spend it, and then work with private partnerships to get the services to the people who need them. Sometimes it's not a question of money. Like I actually just spoke with a charity. They just need food. They don't need money. I mean, I guess they could get the money with food, but there are ways to work private partnerships so that people who need it get it, and not just so that government entities, government corporations get this money in amounts that would flabbergast the average person once they find out where it goes and how much goes there.
But what you just said about cutting money that is going to Canadians, that can be, an argument from the left and telling you, oh, you're bad, you're going to do that. But in reality, that's why we need to have a discussion. It's easy to say, oh, the PPC, they're not Canadians, they want to cut poor people. No, if you look at our platform and all the cuts, we are able to achieve what we said without, cutting the money that is going to the people. But you need to explain that, and it's easy to put you in a corner thinking, oh, bad Bernier and PPC, and you won't help everybody. We will help them, because we will do what we need to do to be sure to have a smaller government in Ottawa, more freedom, and if you have more freedom, you'll have more prosperity.
All right, now, I'm not sure how much time we have left, but I definitely do want to ask you both at least one more question, and that is about splitting the vote.
I've got a well-formulated answer to this.
Okay, well, let's hear it, because a lot of times, I talk about how I voted PPC last time, and I'll be voting PPC this time. You cannot help but have at least several people, in a comment, a thread, in a conversation, talking about, isn't that just another vote for Justin Trudeau? Aren't you just going to ensure that any, center-right libertarian vote in Canada is split?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to say, when nothing distinguishes the main three parties, you're not splitting a vote with them. They're splitting the vote with each other. I mean, if you're anti-vaccine passport and you don't want to see it, if you're anti-lockdown and you never want to see it again, if you are anti-carbon tax and you don't ever want to see it, you're not splitting your vote by voting PPC. You're splitting your vote by voting among either of those three, because it's only going to be a question of lockdowns or more lockdowns, vaccine passport or more stringent vaccine passport, carbon taxes or higher carbon taxes. I genuinely think O'Toole has made a political, calculated decision to try to split as many votes from the Liberals. And it's not the PPC stealing votes from the Conservatives that's going to affect anything here. My own observation, PPC is actually taking votes from the Liberals because they see now a leader who's fundamentally corrupt, through and through, demonstrably true over the last 6 years. They want out, and they don't necessarily want to go further to the left of the NDP, and they might realize that PPC is not quite what it was painted out to be. But my bottom line answer, PPC is not splitting the Conservative vote now. Conservatives are splitting the Liberal vote, NDP is splitting the Liberal vote, and there's going to be a cannibalizing among those three parties. And my answer of principle, if you vote for the lesser of the evils, you're always going to end up with evil, and you never split your vote if you vote with the entirety of your conscience.
Yeah, and thank you, David.
I spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Yeah, but what I can add also, if you're a conservative and you cannot split the vote because we are the only conservative party in this country, conservative and fiscal conservative, and I'm asking you, vote for the real one. Don't vote for the Conservative Party of Canada that are conservative only in name. That's it, that's all, on all the platform. And I'm telling also people that we are able to attract people from the left, like David just said, because of that COVID hysteria, because of the COVID passport. They know, like us, that this country is going in the wrong direction. More socialism, more communism. We don't want that. And so we don't split any vote. We are there, we are doing politics differently, and all the others, they are splitting the vote in between themselves.
It's a big thing. Like, split the vote Conservative. You're going to end up with vaccine passports, like O'Toole has flip-flopped on. You're going to end up with lockdowns as a form of government.
But these are conservative vaccine passports.
Well, but here's the deal. What's going on in everybody's mind who's thinking of voting Conservative, not to just to get Trudeau out? They're actually hoping that they're voting for someone who's being politically dishonest now, and they're hoping that O'Toole's going to flip-flop once he gets elected and say, okay, maybe I'm going to come back on this, maybe I'm going to come back on that. They're actually banking in their own minds that O'Toole is not quite as liberal as he is publicly espousing his beliefs to be now. But it's like, vote Conservative, great. You'll end up with everything you'll end up with the Liberals. And I could hear the crowd out there like going crazy when Maxime says, we're the only conservative party. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I don't consider myself to be conservative. I don't even know what it means. Fiscal conservative, I can understand. Yeah. And if respecting the Constitution of this country, the Charter of Rights, makes me conservative, I may have to live with the label. Yeah. But there's nothing conservative about the Conservatives. There's nothing liberal about the Liberals. It's the ultimate irony.
Yeah, and when I'm saying that, you're right, because I said that actually in New Brunswick, and people said, Maxime, I'm voting for you. It's not because you're conservative, it's because of your values. So we are real, on the economy, you can call us libertarian, on the culture side, more maybe conservative, and we are the real, liberals in the classical term, but classical liberal. And so that can be the description. But the best thing, if you believe in our four principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness, look at our policies. They are in line with our principle. You will come.
Now, I do want to give you both time to maybe address anything that I haven't brought up, but one last thing that I cannot not ask about is that we have seen under the Trudeau government an increasing interest in regulating the speech of Canadians. We have seen that there is a push now to perhaps monitor what they are calling a hate speech on the internet. Even with something like Bill C-10, we're talking about maybe regulating independent journalists, independent people online, as if they were actual broadcasters. There is an appetite for this among some people. Some people do believe that it is a Canadian's right to be able to engage in the public discourse without encountering any hateful attitudes. What is the PPC's position?
It's very clear. You're speaking about two bills, Bill C-10 and Bill C-36. These bills are not in force, but they will be in force if we have a liberal government or maybe a conservative one, and they're very dangerous for our freedom. and they are targeting YouTuber, and they are targeting us on YouTube also.
And this is really the worst type of law, and that is the one that perhaps affects me.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad that we're
Oh, yeah, look,
addressing.
I discovered it, but it goes back to, like, when I say that liberals, and I mean the political party, not individuals. The Liberal Party is not liberal. It's your body, your choice, unless I say otherwise.
Yeah.
It's freedom of speech unless I say it or I don't like what you have to say. You know, I've come to the realization that we do have very interesting speech laws in Canada as to what is considered hate speech, whereas other countries don't even recognize hate speech.
It is in the criminal code.
Well,
so
that's exactly the thing, is we already have laws that deal with this, and so more laws, less justice. We have provisions of law to deal with incitement, to deal with threats of violence, which is not protected speech. What they got into with Bill C-10 was nothing other than they bailed out the CBC with $1 billion on legacy media. It's nothing else than the digital protection of the CBC, because they are losing their voice to independent creators like you, like me, like Maxime's voice on the internet, like Rebel. You know, they're losing their voice and they're losing control of the narrative, and so they want to turn anything and everything willy-nilly into alleged hate speech so they can shut it down. And you know, they would have gotten away with it if it weren't for that dastardly election that they called, and that Bill C-10 will come back depending on who the government is. But it's objectively dangerous in the political sense. It's patently obvious what they're going for, and it is to control the free dissemination of information, the democratization of the information that the internet has brought.
But we said also before that politicians are creating problems to try to push their solutions. There's no problem about hate speech. If you look at the data, less than 1% of all the crimes in this country are related to hate speech, and 65% of them are graffiti on a wall. So they are not violent. It's not a problem. It's not a problem in our society, hate speech or hate crimes. But for Trudeau, he created a new problem for him to be able to impose his point of view and to be sure that it will censor us. We are against that. We'll repeal all these bills, and I want you to be successful on social media, and I want our Canadians to be able to listen to you and look at your shows. You're doing a good job, but actually you're right about that. These two bills are very dangerous for us, for our freedom of speech, for free expression on social media.
All right. Now, is there anything else that the two of you would like to say to Canadians before they head out to the polls?
Mom, I just want to add, please look at our platform. If you like what we are saying, vote for your values, vote for yourself, and by doing that, I believe you'll vote for the PPC.
And I'll say, read the platform. People tend to be politically disinterested. The platform's online. If you're going to vote, take the 5 minutes to make sure you know what you're voting for. But more in general, listen, discourse, discuss things with everybody. At the end of the day, the more I've discussed, the more I realize we are in agreement, as all Canadians are, on a lot more than we think we are. But when you have politicians who are out there just to sow discord, just to divide and conquer on a daily basis as a strategy to victory, you wouldn't think that. And these are divisive times, so be tolerant, but listen. Don't deface other people's posters, people. It's not funny, and you have to tolerate.
And those are expensive when you have to buy them. I've been on the campaign side of things. Those are expensive.
No, and I'm not saying
Leave
for
them
me.
alone.
Touch wood. I've been pretty fortunate. It's that is not protected speech either. But and don't throw stones. There's no room for violence anywhere here. And just respectful discourse, and at some point agree to disagree, but go to the voting booth and vote, because do not be defeatist.
And don't listen, don't believe the CBC. Turn off your TV.
Yeah. All right, so where can people go to follow you both, to keep up with your campaigns and what you're doing in the future?
Well, people know where to follow me. You're on the channel right now, either on Rumble or YouTube, but I dedicated a specific channel, Viva PPC, which is specific messaging for the party, and website, vivappc.ca.
And for me, they can go on the website of the party, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. They can follow me on Twitter. They can follow me also on Facebook, Maxime Bernier. And they can also, on YouTube, we have a channel over there, People's Party of Canada. And so, there's always a way to find us on social media. And I want to thank you, because that was interesting. I think that was, I hope that we still have our people until the end, not like the traditional politicians.
This has been a more insightful discussion on the substance of the issues than what we saw yesterday, because I think the consensus was that that debate last night was a gong show. But Lauren, before you go,
Yes.
where can people find
Yeah.
you?
Well, you can find me if you're not on my channel at Lauren Chen on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, Minds, as well as at the Lauren Chen on Twitter and Instagram. I may or may not be streaming on Twitter live right now. Never done it before. Don't know if it ended up working out. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for both of you all your time. I know you're going to be busy for the next 10 days and got an exciting election ahead of us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Merci.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
In a democracy, one of the chief obligations of politicians is to protect our individual liberty and our personal rights. In the last 13 months of restrictions, the Prime Minister and provincial premiers have violated our rights and freedoms. We have been living with lockdowns and restrictions that have dictated every aspect of our lives for over a year. It was supposed to be a 2-week measure to flatten the curve. Never in the history of mankind has a country locked up its entire population to stop a virus. It is a failed experiment and Canadians are paying the price. We must reopen our economy knowing that Canadians under the age of 70 have a 99.95% survival rate among those infected with the virus. Canadians under 30 are more likely to die from the seasonal flu than from COVID-19. Governments and media are stoking public fear about COVID by silencing conflicting opinions and expertise. Doctors, nurses from across the country have proven that lockdowns are an ineffective measure. But the historical narrative is pushed above rational debate. This COVID hysteria must end. Common sense and scientific debate must prevail. Mr. Trudeau said vaccines were not enough to end mask warrants and social distancing restriction. The longer this fall crisis lasts for Trudeau, the more money he can spend without restriction and the more votes he can buy. We must open the economy and lock down Mr. Trudeau's spending. Because of these lockdowns and drastic measures, Canadians are dying from cancelled surgeries, operations, drug overdose, and suicide. Rates of depression have risen dramatically across the country, and our children have suffered immensely. The cure is worse than the disease. However, Trudeau and the federal government are not the only ones to blame. The provincial governments are responsible for the destruction of our economy and our society as well. A PPC government will not stand for this. The People's Party will encourage provinces to end their lockdowns by ending all financial of economic costs in relation to these ineffective lockdowns. Recently, we've read in the news that establishment politicians want to impose a vaccine passport. They want to divide us in two categories of citizens, vaccinated ones and unvaccinated people. Vaccinated Canadians will have privileges over unvaccinated. Unvaccinated people won't be able to travel, go to a hockey game, or to a rock concert. They will not be able to participate fully in civil society unless they obey to the tyrannical dictates of the establishment. I don't want a show me your papers society. We will never accept it. It's not the Canadian way. The People's Party of Canada is the only national political party fighting openly to end these authoritarian lockdowns and fighting against the imposition of vaccine passports. In the next general election, Canadians will have a clear choice between all the establishment parties, Liberal, Conservative, New Democrat, Green, and the Bloc Québécois, who support and defend these draconian measures, and the PPC, which will always defend our freedoms. I call upon Canadians today who have a fire in their hearts and want to see our country succeed. We must all work together and stand up against these tyrannical actions of the federal and provincial governments. Only through cooperation we can shape up Ottawa. Hello everybody, welcome to the Max Bernier Show. Today I have the privilege and the honor to have with me Chris Wenderbos. Chris is one of the founders of the Police on Guard, a great organization that is fighting for Charter of Rights, our freedoms here in this country. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Maxime. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Chris, can you just tell us a little bit more about you and your career as a police and where you're from? I think it would be interesting for our viewers to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career in 2005. I was a young man from small town Southern Ontario, born to immigrant parents, and come from a long background in our family history of struggling and dealing with oppression over in Europe, and that's why we came here. And when I became a police officer, it was a significant honor for our family because it meant that I was standing for the rights and freedoms of Canadians. And Canada is a part of liberating Holland, where we came from. So my family was honored. And then as a police officer throughout my career, I worked the front line, and I also did some secondments and time in the criminal investigations branch for a little bit, as well as going into school resource as a school resource officer working with at-risk youth. And along that journey, there's a lot of hardships that comes with being a frontline officer, and part of that was, also struggling with PTSD since 2008. And but even in spite of that, I've always worked hard to continue to keep myself, above board and keep pushing forward. And what ended up happening in 2019, late 2019 and early 2020, as this virus was unfolding, as a police officer struggling with PTSD throughout my career, and wondering what it was all for, and then seeing the government implement mandates that were seemingly criminalizing human behavior and arbitrarily removing the people's rights, I became concerned. So I decided to do something about it, and it's luckily grown into a great organization thanks to the work of all the people involved.
So you decided to create the Police on Guard. It's a national organization all across the country. For the members of your organization are police and former police, or can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, so we have the officers on the statement of claim. We've hired Rocco Galati. Actually, he came to us because he knew what we were after and that we were fighting for the freedoms of the people. And he's from the Constitutional Rights Center, and he decided to represent us pro bono, and we had officers join on board on their statement of claim. And then from there, the organization just developed and grew into hundreds and hundreds of officers on the immediate Telegram chat that we have, where we disseminate information and organize events and strategy. And then further to that, we have our support pages as well, which is numbering the thousands. We have a lot of currently serving officers, as well as retired officers that are from all ranks, not just constables, all the way up to superintendent, in some cases even a chief. So we have quite a few officers that are representing us, as well as military and other oath takers that work in the government sector.
So you saw the need to have that organization because of these draconian lockdowns and draconian measures that were imposed in Ontario and in other provinces also. Can you give us some example?
Yeah, I'll give you the one that started it all. The one that really was the nail in the coffin, so to say, or the straw that broke the camel's back, was the incident in Calgary, where Calgary police had approached the young men and kids that were on the ice, and they weren't wearing masks. And the one young fellow was threatened to be tased, and he was arrested, and they cut his skates off.
In a democracy, one of the chief obligations of politicians is to protect.
Bernier, your chance to go head-to-head with Mr. Singh.
Yes, about the Bill 21, we must respect the Constitution. And we won't interfere at the federal level. That's the decision from the provincial government. And that's what we must do. But also, Mr. Singh, you said that you didn't want me to be here on the stage to have a discussion with you. So you're for diversity. But what about diversity of opinion? I have the right to have another opinion about immigration. And I don't know why you're not, you're a leader and you must try to have everybody on your side, but are you believing in free speech? Are you believing in free speech only when people are saying things that you want to hear?
You're asking the question, let me answer it. After a couple of minutes of this debate tonight, I think people can clearly see why I didn't think you should deserve a platform. The comments that you're making, the type of things you say, there's one thing to say that you disagree with somebody, that's fine. But when you incite hatred, when you incite division,
no, I don't. It's not true. You cannot say that.
You insult a young girl
I just want to have a debate.
Ask about her mental stability. It shows a lack of judgment. You don't deserve a platform, and I'm happy to challenge you on that because your ideas are hurtful to Canada. I will always work to build unity and bring people together.
Unity for
okay,
people
thank you
who
very
agree
much.
with you.
Merci, Monsieur Bernier. Thank you, Mr. Singh.
everybody. Welcome to the Max Bernier Show. Today, I have the privilege to have with me Dr. Julie Penasse. Julie, thank you for being back with us. And since our last discussion, a lot of things happen here in Canada about the lockdowns and COVID-19 and maybe also a vaccine passport that can be imposed here in Canada. What is your thought about all that?
Ooh, my one thought, about all of that. I think it's probably worth starting by saying that I think a lot of Canadians as individuals, certainly the ones I speak with, and also in a collective sense, there's a kind of COVID fatigue. We've been undergoing this constant barrage of information and fear for 16, 17 months now. And I think it's breaking down, people's sense of trust in their own reasoning abilities, their social relationships, and their trust and confidence about what their security as a citizen is going to look like in the future. And I think we're actually in a kind of dark ages in terms, I never thought I would say that of Canada. I never thought that would be something that would be part of our future. As someone who's born in the 70s, I never thought that would be possible. But I think it's really a kind of dark ages because there's an incredible limitation on and suppression of a diversity of voices in the scientific community that is very much at the root of so many of the problems that we're seeing now. And these voices that are being suppressed are labeled as misinformers or conspiracy theorists, and they're being debunked and fact-checked, and nobody wants those labels. And when labeled, many of those people, think of Dr. Charles Hoff or Dr. Christian or Dr. Patrick Phillips or many members of the Canadian COVID Care Alliance that I'm part of, many academics that I know, many physicians practicing that I know. Nobody wants to be labeled and ostracized by the important social and professional groups to which they belong. But unfortunately, the cost of that, the threat of that, is that we are, in a position where apparently we have one scientific voice, and it's a voice that we hear over and over and over again from our government, from Health Canada, from our federal, provincial, municipal governments, and there's almost a complete devoid of evidence being provided for the claims and that they're making, and for the now possibly quite restrictive mandates that we're seeing. And two that are really important and really on the horizon. One, mandates for various schools, and so I'm an instructor at university, and so the vaccine mandates for residents and also for other activities at university. So Seneca College now has in-person mandate for faculty and staff on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we're seeing vaccine passports possibly implemented in various ways in provinces, and this is a real problem. This is going to be a serious violation of bodily autonomy, informed consent, which is undermined any time we see an instruction or a mandate coerced as opposed to trying to convince someone on the basis of good evidence. We're going to see a freedom of movement, a freedom of association, and I think a state monitoring and possibly also ownership of citizens' bodies. And so we're on a real slippery slope, I think, where we're going to see a stratification of society, a class system, a case system, and it's going to require as I've said before in other interviews, more moral courage than those of us who question these mandates than at any other time before. And if people are watching and they're thinking, well, hold on here, don't we have vaccination cards for schools? Haven't we had that in the past? Yes, we have. The big difference here is that all of the COVID shots in Canada, and I want to be really clear about this because the more that I talk to people, the more confusion I think there is about this. All the COVID shots on the market, all the ones that have been given out so far, are brought to Canada authorized under an interim order. And in the States, it's an emergency use authorization. And emergency use authorization products, including vaccinations, cannot be mandated. It's against our rights, our healthcare rights. So what we're seeing now is undue disadvantage being imposed on us on the basis of illegal government and, unfortunately, educational institution action. I don't think there's
Illegal
a better way to look at it.
Yeah, illegal and unconstitutional. You're absolutely right. And the censorship is everywhere. For me, as a
Everywhere.
politician, I'm not able to.
we got musicians in the background. a real Canadian hoedown. I had my prom there, man.
Our story begins with a computer hard drive and two men who worked at an IT company. On the drive, they discovered something that they were not meant to see.
Having to do with the mainstream media, we need to do our traveling across the country, be on social media, but it's worse for you as experts. We, like I said,
Hello, everybody. I'm Nick Hudson, chairman and founder of Panda, which is short for Pandemics Data and Analytics, an international organization aiming to promote open science in response to the COVID epidemic. And with me today, I have Maxime Bernier, who is the leader of the People's Party of Canada. And Maxime, over to you to give yourself a bit of an introduction, if you would.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. I'm very pleased to have that conversation with you today. Yes, I'm the leader of a new political party, a smart populist political party in Canada called the People's Party. We created that party in 2018, and we had our first election in 2019. At that time, we were pretty new. We had only 1.6% of the votes. But this time in Canada, we will have an election.
Hello, my name is David Rich-Shoppard. I'm from the Pontiac. I'm very much an amateur politician. I've never made a speech this big before in my life. 2 weeks ago, my biggest worry was trying to clean up my basement. And then I got a call and I'm a candidate, no money, no people, no contacts. And somehow, all these people came together and have met me and donated to me. And we've gone all over the riding. It's a big riding. And it's the most amazing experience of my life. I've never had anything like this before. Taken away. They are not listened to. They are being... And I've met so many people that their voice has been taken away. They are not listened to. They are being put down by the media, put down by the government, treated like second-class citizens. And not even about all these restrictions, but about the attitude towards them, the contempt towards people that don't do what the government says, that don't want to give in. And those are the people that I'm representing. And they are giving me so much strength and energy that I'm going to work 12-hour, 15-hour, 20-hour days until this election so that we can win in the Pontiac and win across Canada. Thank you so much. I love you all. This is great. We love you too!
I had to join this fight for freedom, and that's the reason I'm in. And if I didn't do this, my conscience would bother me till the rest of my days, for the rest of my days. So here we are. The whole fight is about freedom. And how do we get freedom? We do like Max said. We fight with words, philosophy, and what we believe. And everyone here I know believes in freedom, believes to be able to make decisions that are proper for themselves, believes in decisions for their children. How do you keep your children safe these days? You get your parental agency, you ensure to tell the government they have no business in your family's business, and you tell them, I'm not going to get my kids vaccinated, or I'm not going to make my kids do certain things because it's bad for them. That's what you do as parents. And better yet, that's what you do as free parents, free Canadian parents. Remember, if things go awry, we're going to suffer. But worse yet, it'll be our children. We cannot have that. Thanks for being out here, everyone. Go nuts! And go PPC! Jean-Jacques Desgrands! Thank you!
Amazing. Let's hear from Eric Fleury, Paul Elmer, candidates. Give it up for Eric.
Bonjour tout le monde. Il y a des gens ici qui ont soif de liberté. People here hungry for freedom. Moi, je suis pas un politicien de carrière. Ça fait quelques semaines, en fait, que je suis un politicien. Ça fait un peu bizarre, un peu nouveau. Mais je suis quelqu'un comme vous. Puis je me suis présenté parce que je trouvais que c'était temps que les gens comme nous aient une voix. On est en mesure de choisir comment on veut vivre nos vies. On est en mesure de faire nos choix sur notre santé. Notre corps nous appartient. We are able to make our own choices about our life, our body, our health. The choices we make are between us and our doctor. For those of us that have one, some of us live in the Quebec side, we don't have even that luxury. But I believe we can make our own choices. I believe also provinces can make their own choices. I believe we have to respect the Constitution. That's what we stand for. Freedom, liberty, respect. Bonne soirée tout le monde et vive la liberté! Shiloh Hall, everybody, from Ottawa South.
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm up here, but I'm really all of you. I'm representing all of us. And I'm a mom, and I just wanted to talk about what's going on with our kids right now. So I presented my school with a notice of liability because I phoned the school and I found out that they're having 2 vaccination clinics, and I don't think they were going to tell the parents because the counselor didn't even know. So it's important as a parent, and anybody that's a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, you got to get out to your schools. You got to let them know it's not okay to take your voice away as a parent. You need to stand up for your kids. Our kids are our future, and they're the most important thing that we have. I'm sorry. So, go for freedom, for our choice, PPC all the way, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We have Jay Nira from Nepean. Give it up for Jay.
Hi guys, so my name's Jay Nira from the Nepean riding, and I got a bone to pick. I'm running because I want to be able to look my son in the eyes and to tell him that I fought for his freedom. Anytime we're dealing with compromise, any compromises, we have to ask ourselves, where do you draw the line? Right now, a sense of security and safety versus freedom. That's the question, that's the compromise. Where do you draw the line? 2 weeks to flatten the curve, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to flatten the curve, 5 weeks, 2 months. Where do you draw the line? A second lockdown? A third lockdown? Why not a fourth lockdown? Where do you draw the line? Just until the vulnerable are vaccinated, just until 70%, 85%, 90%, everybody has to get vaccinated, the kids, them too. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? 1 dose? 2 doses? Let's go for a third dose? 4, 5, 6? How many boosters? Every 3, 4 months? Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? It's been a slippery slope the last 18 months.
Yeah.
We've gone from 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and now they want to say, show me your papers.
Yeah.
That's a pretty serious line.
Yes.
That's a very serious line to stop and defend. We're talking about our kids. This isn't just us. You can be apathetic, but we got kids, they have futures. You want to go to school? Show me your papers. You want to play sports? Show me your papers. You want to go to a birthday party? Sorry, you didn't have your booster shot. You can't participate.
Oh, that's right, sir.
This is our kids. This is a serious line.
That's
this is
right.
A cliff. Yes. Talk about a slippery slope. We're at a cliff. We're about to fall off. Once we fall off, it's not going to be easy to get back up, folks.
Oh, he's
so
right.
Now we're asking for a more serious question. It's not just where do you draw the line. The question is, what are you willing to do to defend that line? I care about this. It's a big freaking deal. And I got fire in here. I hope you guys got the same fire. I hope you feel it. Standing shoulder to shoulder. I hope you got that fire in your bellies. What are you willing to do? You gonna vote? Yeah, I know you guys are gonna vote. We're all here, everyone here. We're all awake. We know what's going on. But we gotta take a little bit more. This is an information war.
He is
right?
right.
We're not even in the debates. They don't want us spreading information. I'm censored on my big tech has all my social media censored. Can't get messages out. Can't put ads up on Facebook. We need you guys to share posts, memes. Get out, get on your lawn. Yell PPC. The purple wave is huge across Canada right now.
He's right.
Ottawa, Gatineau, this area, we know it doesn't swing the right way. There's a lot of liberal-minded people here, a lot of government employees who are happy sitting at home, wearing their pajamas with their government jobs, getting paid to go to Costco.
He's right.
They're just comfortable. They're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about our children's futures. They're not thinking about anyone else's futures. We have to ignite that fire in people that lets them know what's on the line.
Yes,
we have to be willing to yell from the top of our lungs that this is a line we need to defend.
Yes, sir.
We talk about strong and free. We hear that. PPC, strong and free. We hear it in our anthem, strong and free.
He's right.
Do you know why strong and free go together? Because you can't have freedom if you're not strong. We have to be strong to defend our freedom. Past Canadians had to step up for our freedom.
Freedom!
And now it's us. We have to defend our freedom.
Yes, sir! Yes, he's right!
We have to be strong and free.
What's up now? What's up? You're right! He's right!
Okay, we're gonna have a little bit more music, but let's hear some Purple Thunder after
He's right! He is right! Tell my wife. No, you're right! You're right.
Candidate in Ottawa. There he is. He's trying to hide behind his drums, but we hear him and we see him. And he is part of the Purple Wave, as all of you are. I see the Purple Wave. You see the Purple Wave. Let's put those signs up. Woo! Yes. All right, let's hear from some more amazing candidates. We have Jean-Jacques from Ottawa, Vanier, and he's got to go to a debate after this and face our opponents. Let's give him some energy, everybody. Here's an amazing man.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out, all of you. It's marvelous to see the Purple Wave, and hopefully it'll gather itself and sweep Canada. Yes, sir. I'm the candidate in Ottawa, Vanier, Jean-Jacques Desgranges, fully bilingual. Je parle français aussi. Quiconque veut l'entendre, ça va me faire plaisir. Ce soir, j'étais ici hier soir pour la soirée en français. Je m'adresse en anglais ce soir parce que c'est la majorité des gens ici. And so, I hopped into this race. Why, you might ask? Well, first of all, because I thought it was my duty. I see Canada going in a direction that I cannot agree with. We are being shut down. We are being misinformed. We are being disinformed. What's worse? Those who want to speak are being silenced. That
like
is
I said
wrong.
previously,
That is totally wrong.
You know, it's the beginning of a kind of a life.
Right. And what that does is to take away from each of you the freedom you have to choose, because you don't have the information.
Joining me now is Kentucky.
Hello? Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. Hello, tout le monde. Yeah! La circonscription de Gatineau pour manifester pour le droit de parole de M. Maxime Bernier, notre chef. On va donner quelques consignes pour ce soir à la demande de nos amis des polices de Gatineau. Lorsque les convois vont passer, on demandera à tous ceux qui sont devant le chemin de juste se tasser vers la gauche pour laisser les you when the police officer will ask you to get away. And we don't want them to push you, so please apply the other candidates around Quebec and Canada. Thank you very much and enjoy the night.
Let Maxime speech! 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 Woo! Thank you very much!
There seems no hope for fully economic recovery and balancing the budget. So if
on this Friday morning after
you are elected, what measures would you take to bring the economy back on track? 我在问 Bernier 先生，就是说这个现在联邦赤字非常巨大，而且呢这个很多的这个好像这个未来在很长一段时期内经济复苏无望，这个预算平衡呢基本上也是达不到的。那么如果说是 Bernier 先生能当选的话，他会采取什么样的措施使经济完全复苏？
Yes, you're right. We must be fiscal responsible and we must balance the budget. We cannot spend money that we don't have. That will be our children and grandchildren that will have to pay for it, and it is irresponsible. So we are the only national political party that will balance the budget in 4 years. Erin O'Toole won't do that, and Justin Trudeau won't do it also.
是的，我们必须对这个财务状况进行负责，因为只有做到财政平衡，对这个国家才是负责任的。那如果我们能当选，我们有把握在4年内做到预算平衡。Erin O'Toole 就是保守党的党领跟杜鲁多，他们根本就不可能做这些事情。
What about tax breaks and incentives to small and medium-sized enterprises in post-pandemic era?
Yes, actually, we want to reopen the economy. We want to stop the lockdowns. We want every business to be open, every small businesses. And what the government did during the COVID-19 crisis was unfair, because a small business was not able to be open, and the big one like Walmart and these big businesses have had the right to be open. So we want every business to be open, and after balancing the budget, we will lower their taxes, because we want them to have more money in their pocket. They can, with that, create economic growth.
对，我们应该尽早结束这个 lockdown， 就是然后呢，让小型的经济可以重新开放。为什么大型的公司像沃尔玛还有像 Costco 这些大公司，他们能够开放，而小型企业不能够营业呢？所以我们必须结束这种COVID-19 lockdown 的政策，然后呢，让小型企业开始营业，这是我们必须要做的。还有就是，当我们的经济呢，能够起来的时候，到我们预算能平衡的时候，我们应该就是把税收减下去，让老百姓的钱应该留在他们自己的口袋。
Okay, my next question is that in terms of high inflation and housing crisis, and people are suffering right now hugely. So, what would you do from a federal level to make people's life more affordable and more pleasant?
Yes, thank you for asking, because you're absolutely right. Here in Vancouver, in British Columbia, the prices of houses are very high, and the reason for that is the inflation. And you have the Bank of Canada that is promoting inflation. We have right now about 5-6% inflation. So what we will do, we are the only party that will ask the Bank of Canada to not create inflation with a zero inflation target. Like that, the prices won't go up, and everybody will keep their purchasing power and their standard of living.
这个是一个很好的问题，谢谢你问我。没有错，你像 BC 现在的房价非常高，是为什么？是因为这个通货膨胀。现在通货膨胀率已经达到5%到6%。加拿大联邦人民党只有唯一的一个政党会要求加拿大国家银行进行零通胀的一种政策，货币政策，那使老百姓的生活能够过得更容易一些。
So the Liberal Party and NDP and the Green Party have all said that the country is in a state of climate crisis, and the Conservative Party has also agreed to the signing of Paris Accord. So I remember you've said that you are the only politician in Ottawa saying that we should not sign the Paris Accord. So what's the reason behind that?
Yes, you're right. We are the only party that is saying no to the Paris Accord and saying no to a carbon tax. We Canadians are paying a lot of taxes right now, and it is not a time to add another tax. So we need to help the environment, to protect the environment, and we will do it by being sure that our lake and rivers are clear, thus that we can have concrete actions for the environment that we're not doing right now. So for us, the climate change is changing. We will let that with provinces, because they can have their own policy on climate change, but us at the federal level, we will be sure that Canadians won't pay more taxes, and we won't impose a carbon tax.
对了，这在联邦政党中，只有人民党他是反对这个巴黎气候协议。如果我们能当政，我们会退出巴黎协议，气候协议。另外一个，我们反对任何的碳税，因为加拿大人已经付了很多税，根本就付不起别的税，对吧？我们重点应该做的什么东西呢？是保护环境，让我们的河流、我们的湖泊、我们的土地、我们的空气更加清新，不能够受到污染。至于这个所谓的全球的暖化或者气候变化，我们认为气候一直是在变化的。那么省这一级的政府呢，如果他愿意去做这些关于这个气候变化的事情，是他们的事情。作为联邦层面，我们只是会想让我们的山川河流更加干净和美丽。
So then let's come to the fossil fuel industry and its right now, many political parties, all the rest of the political parties are saying that we should cancel fossil fuel industry, the sooner the better. So do you think that we should do this in a gradual process, or we should leave some of the industry, some of the factors in the industry just to maintain national security?
But that's not the role of the government to decide if an industry will survive or not in a capitalist system, in a free society. And if Canadians want to support another industry than the oil and gas industry, that I'm okay with that. And the oil and gas industry will have to adapt themselves to the new reality. And that's why we won't impose more taxes on the oil and gas industry, but also on every industry. We want to be fair. We want to have a flat tax on a business that will be at 10%. So it's not the role of the government to pick an industry that will be a winner and another one that won't win. We need to be equally just with every industry, and Canadians will decide if they want to buy electric cars or not. And if they are buying more electric cars, the oil and gas industry will have a challenge, but that will be a decision from the people.
作为一个这个在自由的国度里面，没有一个政府可以去决定，要去扶持这个企业或者那个企业。那这个是个公平竞争的企业。如果大家决定说你要用清洁的能源，那么
In his inaugural address, Joe Biden declared, "This is democracy's day. The will of the people has been heard. The will of the people has been heeded. Democracy has prevailed." Tonight, we begin a new joint TVO Toronto Star initiative exploring Western society's commitment to the democratic process. And to kick off this series, we're looking to our southern neighbors and the daunting task they face to mend the frayed democratic fabric of their country. Joining us for this first installment of the Democracy Agenda, in Washington, D.C., David Frum, staff writer at The Atlantic and author most recently of Trumpocalypse, Restoring American Democracy. Also in D.C., Edward Keenan, the Toronto Star's Washington correspondent. And in New York City, Michelle Moody Adams, political philosopher at Columbia University. And Michelle, we're delighted to welcome you to the program for the first time. David, good to see you again. And Edward, we're very excited about this new initiative with the Star, so thanks for joining us this evening as well. We do want to start with the man at the center of yesterday's action. And for once, we're not talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about the new president, the 46th POTUS, Joe Biden. Here's from his inaugural, reaching out to the millions of Americans who dispute the fact that he won the election fair and square. Sheldon, roll it if you would.
I know speaking of unity can sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real. But I also know they are not new. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American ideal that we're all are created equal and the harsh, ugly reality that racism, nativism, fear, demonization have long torn us apart. The battle is perennial, and victory is never assured. History, faith, and reason show the way of unity. We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature.
David, to you first. It's considered a good day in politics when a politician has a message that meets the historical requirements of the moment. On that metric, how well did Joe Biden do?
This whole event, the transition, the inauguration, and after, I mean, it's all taking place in the shadow of the heinous attack on the Capitol on the 6th of January. And it is all framed by the startling absence of one of the central participants in this transition.
Mechanisms we have for allowing people to communicate with each other.
Maxime Bernier was a newsmaker when he served in the cabinet of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper and when he ran for the leadership of the Conservative Party to replace Harper in 2017. But this past summer, after calling his former party, quote, intellectually and morally corrupt, he became the talk of the nation. Now he's launched his own new venture, the People's Party of Canada. And he joins us now to explain why. Bienvenue.
Merci. Thank you very much.
So nice to have you here. Tell us about the guiding philosophy of your new party.
Actually, it's the same one that I put forward during the leadership campaign for the Conservative Party of Canada a year and a half ago. So all our policies are based on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And I think this is why people like it. We are doing politics differently with serious policies and bold reform that we need here in Canada.
Let me ask you to compare your People's Party with what I hear the new Premier of Ontario saying all the time, and that is he is for the people. Do you purport to represent the same people?
I hope so, yeah. He won his election representing these people. Mm-hmm. Yes, we choose the name the People's Party of Canada for 2 major reasons. First one, we want to do politics differently and not try to please special interest group. And the 2 big parties and are doing that with the NDP also. They try to please special interest group and not working for Canadians. And we want to work for the peoples, and that's very important. And we want to put the power back in people's hands. So without any compromise, the best example is the file of the cartel of supply management. Every parties want to please 19,000 dairy and poultry producers to have votes, and they're using people's money to buy votes. And for us, we are saying, we won't do that. It would be good for Canadians if we get rid of that. But yes, we won't please these 19,000 producers, but that's okay because it's the best policy for this country. Consumers will pay less, half the price for poultry, milk, and eggs.
This is a drum you have beat for a very long time, and you tried to beat it again in the House of Commons this past week. You got up to introduce a motion. We've got the video. Let's have a look. Go ahead, Sheldon, roll it.
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent of the House for the following motion.
The government to put the complete abolition of the system of supply management on the negotiating table in order to facilitate a new NAFTA agreement with our American partners and bring down the prices of milk, poultry, and eggs for Canadian consumers. Yes?
Does the honourable member have unanimous consent of the House to move the motion? No, there is no consent.
You asked yes, and you got a lot of, well, you didn't just get no's. You got booed, you got heckled. What was that like?
Well, it's a shame that I'm the only one in the House who wants to have a system that would be good for Canadians. And, I tried and wasn't successful. But I don't understand why politicians want to protect this special interest group.
Well, let me pick up on that, because you call them special interests, but political parties, I don't have to tell you, are made up of coalitions of various groups.
Yeah.
The supply management, those farmers are one group. Who's in your coalition? Who's in your tent?
The people.
Okay, but who? Which people?
Canadian consumers. Canadians consumers. I don't need what I need. I want them, the producers on their supply management, to be able to export their products. And they're doing a good products, good meal, good cheese, and with good quality. So they're not able to export right now because of that system. And I want them to be able to export and to be able to be more productive. But if we abolish that system, it will be over 4 or 5 years, like in other countries when they did it. So they will have time to adjust. But the worst situation right now is what the Trudeau government, they're doing. They're going with NAFTA in the negotiation, and we know that President Trump wants us to get rid of that system.
Yep.
And we must say yes for Canadian consumers and for being sure to have a deal with the US. 20% of our economy is depending on free trade with the US, so that's important. But what the Trudeau government, they want to do, maybe they will give a part of the market for dairy milk, maybe 5, 10, 15%. That's the worst solution because the producers won't be able to export. The consumers will still pay twice the price for these products, and the taxpayers will have to compensate a huge cost to keep that system.
I understand how this animates you. You've been talking about it for a long time, but I want to understand more about who's in this people's tent. Because I hear libertarians are in there. I hear, free market economists, people who believe in a free market economy are in there. Social Democrats are not going to be in there. Farmers are not going to be in there.
I'm not sure. We can have the support of Social Democrats. The NDP, who don't believe in giving money to big corporate welfare, and the only politician who want to abolish corporate welfare. So we can have support from the NDPs. We can have support also from some liberals who voted for Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin a couple of years ago because they want a balanced budget and lower taxes. They're not seeing that right now with the present liberal government. So we can have people like that.
How about social conservatives? You want them in the tent?
They will come if they believe in our values. And I always said that, the values that we promote, it's a free market, conservative values, and free market, it is good for the people, it is good for consumers.
Let's talk about just a handful of words that you used to describe your former party that really caught a lot of attention. You said your former party, the Conservatives, are too intellectually and morally corrupt to be reformed. I want to go through that and find out exactly what you mean. Intellectually corrupt, how?
Yeah, how? We don't know what they believe in anymore. We don't know what they believe. They have to do polling to know what they believe in. For me, I don't need to do any polling. It's our values, and people who like it, perfect, they will come, and I will ask them to vote for us. People who don't like what I'm saying and doesn't like what I'm saying, it's okay, just stay at home and vote for another party. But the Conservative Party of Canada and the Liberals and the NDP, they're so focused and to try to please everybody and they don't please a lot of people. But I'm not like that. To win an election, you need to be strong and being a principled politician, and that's what I will try to do, and that's what I did in the past.
How about morally corrupt? How are they morally corrupt?
But morally corrupt, it's the conservative philosophy. Tell me one thing of the Andrew Scheer platform. We know that is against Justin Trudeau on taxes, but how he gonna lower taxes? Andrew Scheer said during the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada that it will balance the budget in 2 years. And now that's not the case anymore. So they're afraid to tell the truth to the population. When I'm saying, I will abolish corporate welfare, I will use the money that we save to lower taxes to every single entrepreneur in this country. So morally, they don't believe in anything anymore. So that's why I'm saying that.
I want to put this picture up here. Sheldon, can you go to the picture in the middle of page 2, put that up? That was one of the toughest nights of your life, I'm going to guess, because you lost the leadership to Andrew Scheer by less than 2 points on the 13th ballot. And I'm wondering how much longer after that picture was taken were you starting to think, I may need to form my own party?
A year and a half after that.
A year and a half?
Yeah, because
some people think you were thinking of it when you had your hands in the air that night.
No, I was relieved that night. I was relieved because I was the candidate for change. I was the candidate with bold reform. And I had only the support of 6 members of parliament, conservative members of parliament during my leadership campaign. And as you know, on 98 members, conservative members of parliament. So I didn't have the support of the caucus. I was the guy that was promoting big reform. And I look at that, 51-49, do the opposite, 51 for me, 49 for Andrew Scheer. It would have been very tough for me to do the reform that I believe in. And
with the whole caucus against you.
The caucus against me, you're right. So I was a little bit relieved. And I said to myself, I will fight inside the party to be sure to try to convince my conservative friends to adopt some of my policies in the campaign, because that was popular with 49% of the vote. But in the beginning of the summer, I said to myself, I tried to convince the party to adopt some of our ideas for the next platform, for the next election, and it was a no. So at that time, I said, okay, I don't have any time to waste with the Conservative Party of Canada. I have 2 choices, to go back in the private sector or to create our own party and taking the same ideas that they are very popular and fight for that, and that's what I decided.
Here's some of the feedback. You have heard tons. You have really made a splash, I have to say. Here's what some of your former colleagues have had to say. Go ahead, Sheldon, roll it.
Maxime decided that he was going to go his own way and put his own personal ambitions first. So that's his choice. He'll have to live with that.
He's been busy pouting for the last 15 months. He's now finally picked up his ball and bat and didn't like the way the game turned out, and he's left.
Conservatives need to be united to win, and I think they are united. I think one man's ego is not going to change that.
And then there was this from former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who said, "It is clear that Max never accepted the result of the leadership vote and seeks only to divide Conservatives. His decision today to start your own party allows the Conservative Party of Canada to move forward united behind our leader, Andrew Scheer." They seem to be saying you're a sore loser. Is that true?
No, it is not. It is not. You know, I'm fighting for people who believe in this country, for people who want to have a freer and more prosperous country. And they don't have any voice right now. They didn't have any voice, and now they have a voice with our new party, but they didn't have any voice in the Conservative Party of Canada. When people are saying you're devising the right, there's no right in Canada. The Conservative Party of Canada is not the right. It is not a right-wing party.
Too mushy middle?
Tell me a reform. Do they want to privatize something? No.
They want to certainly get rid of the carbon tax, which I suspect you support as well.
Yeah, for sure, but that's the only policy that we know. Do they want to have a discussion about the equalization formula, that it's unfair for Canadians? Do they want to have a discussion about having a universal healthcare system with private delivery of services and public delivery of services? No, they don't want to have that kind of discussion. It's important for the future of this country. So there's no right. So we are the party who represent people who believe in free markets and freedoms and having a smaller government, a more efficient government. So, and we will be able to be the alternative of the Trudeau's alternative, because we can have people from other parties that can be with us if they want to have big reform.
Tony Clement supported you for leader.
Yes.
He was your campaign chair, I think.
He was
one of them.
Yeah, he was an important player.
Okay, Tony Clement has said that if you are successful enough in taking even just 5% of the Conservative vote, let's call it the center-right vote for lack of a better expression, if you even win 5% of the vote in the next election, you will really hurt the Conservative Party, and a lot of members will lose their seats because some of them came in with less than a 5% margin. And he says under those set of circumstances, Justin Trudeau wins again. I know you don't want that to be your legacy, letting the Liberals win more.
For sure, yeah.
But it could be, right? That could be what it turns out to be.
Everything can happen in politics. But what I want to do, I want to be the alternative. We will build a strong party all across the country. We are at maybe 11% in the poll right now.
Who's we?
Our party.
People's Party's at 11?
Yeah, 11%.
How do you know?
I know. I'll look at the last poll. 11%. So a new party, 11% in the poll, and we have a year before the election. So we just have to grow there. When I started the leadership campaign, as a candidate, I was at 5%, and I finished that campaign at 49%. Now we are starting this movement. It is not only just a political party, it is a movement with people all across the country. We are starting that at 10% in the poll. So we will grow, and we will be the alternative.
You won't know this, but 8 years ago on this program, we had 5 guests come in and talk about you.
Yeah, I know.
You do know. And one of them was a Canadian historian by the name of Bob Plamondon, who had written a book about the Conservatives. And he made a very interesting comparison of you to somebody else. Yeah. You want to hear that clip?
Yeah, please.
Here we go. Sheldon, let's go. As you consider all of the people who've led the Conservative Party over the years, how does he either fit or not fit in with that profile?
Well, I can't really say that he fits in with any of them in particular. Certainly none of them have been, ideologues or very far to the right on fiscal issues. And on the Constitution, I think he resembles more some provincial politicians. But the fellow who I think he most resembles in terms of style and approach and being provocative, although he's the antithesis of him in terms of the philosophy that he adapts, but it's Pierre Trudeau.
What do you think of that comparison?
But you know what I like from that? Pierre Trudeau believed in a kind of a socialist country, and he was fighting for what he believed. So I'm fighting for what I believe. What is my goal in politics is to convince people and about the freedom policies, and I like to do that. So Pierre Elliott Trudeau was the opposite of that, but I think it's a nice comparison. I don't have any problem with that. And the opposite on the intellect, what I believe, but I'm fighting for what I believe, like Trudeau did. He was a strong federalist, and he was fighting for having a Charter of Rights and the Constitution back. So Pierre Elliott Trudeau is part of Canadian history, but you know, I hope that with what we will do in the future, that people remember, you know, Bernie and the People's Party of Canada did a lot of good changes for this country.
And you should be so lucky as to win 4 elections like Pierre Trudeau did. You wouldn't mind that at all, I'm sure. I want to ask you for a second about, okay, let's go here. Preston Manning, of course, the founder of the Reform Party, used to say, you turn on a light and you are going to attract some moths.
Yeah.
And I want to know how concerned you are that some people who are alt-right, white nationalists, anti-immigration, that kind of thing, see you, for whatever reason, as somehow their champion.
I told them that they're not welcome in our party. They're not sharing the same values of us, and so they're not welcome. And will you know, the people who will represent our party, the candidates all across the country, will have to share our values and will be sure to have the right people. So I'm not afraid of that, because if I told them, you know, don't come in our party if you try to change our principle. You won't be. I will impose, yes, I will impose our principle, and people will be able to discuss, but around our principles. So if you don't believe in immigration, you're not welcome.
So you're pro-immigration?
For sure.
Same levels as today?
No, I said in the campaign that during the leadership, and I still believe in that we must have a little bit less immigration, more economic immigrants, and not like Justin Trudeau right now in the government. They want to increase that at 340,000 in 2 years from now, and they receive a report asking for 450,000 a year. So that's only a report, but they want more and more and more. I just want to have a question, and I want to have a little bit less, and I want our country to be like that in 20 years from now. I don't want us to have the challenge that some European countries are having about the integration of our new immigrants.
Meaning new immigrants should embrace Western values.
Yes, and they are doing that right now. So I just want to have a debate, but we need more economic immigrants. We need more students, immigrants. That's easier for them to integrate when you are studying here for 3 years. You know our values. I want people to come here and share our values, and that's happening right now.
So if we need more of that, what do we need less of?
You know, the ratio, we have economic immigrants, reunification of family, students, and refugees. I think we must have a little bit less of reunification of family, a little bit less of refugees, more economic immigrant, and so let's have this debate. I'm the only one who want to have this debate at the federal scene. So I think it's a fair debate to have.
You are pretty tough on the Liberals, I have to say. You say that current Liberal government has created a cult of diversity that will destroy the country. I want to know more about what that means.
You know, I'll give you an example. Justin Trudeau is always saying, you know, diversity is our strength. And that's not the case. It's what unites us. It's our strength. You know, that's the case. You build a country with people who share the same values. So diversity of values, I don't like that. And some journalists said, oh, Maxime is against racial diversity. That's not true. I never said that. People who don't believe in our values, I think that, you know, they must not come in our country. It's Western civilization values. And we were able to have a lot of people coming from different countries for the last 60 years. So they're welcome, but they must share our values. So I like diversity. I want people to come in to tolerate diversity. As you know, they know that men and women are equal before the law, and all these Western civilization values.
But you mentioned some European countries that you think have have gone too far in the wrong direction. So take us 10, 20 years down the road. If we keep going the way we're going, what do you worry Canada will look like?
I'm worried that the integration won't be at the best, and we can have ghettos, like I said. So let's have that discussion right now. And people are saying, Maxime, we don't have a problem. People are integrating our country very well. I said, yes, but I don't want us to have a problem in 20 years from now, and just have that discussion.
Let's look 13 months into the future. We are going to have a federal election. You're a brand new party.
Yes.
What do you think you can achieve?
What can I think? I want to win the election.
Okay, I understand that you want to win, but I look back over the last 151 years of Canadian history, and it's only ever Liberals or Conservatives who've won. Only ever.
I can give you an example, maybe not in our country, in France. I'm not a socialist, but Macron was a socialist. 11 months before the presidential election, he quit the Socialist Party, created his own party, and now he's the president. So that can happen.
It can happen in France. It's never happened in Canada.
Why not?
Well, I guess why not, but it never has.
Yeah. It's a big challenge, I agree with you, but I'll have candidates in every riding.
You're sure about that?
Oh, for sure.
You will have candidates in all 338
ridings. For sure.
ridings.
We are building the party right now. Before the end of December, we'll have riding association all across the country. And in January, we'll work on the candidates, and we'll have candidates, and our goal will be to have, and we will be able to have 338 candidates in every riding. Yes, for sure. And we have a platform. The platform that we're having right now, I have a year to explain the platform to Canadians. That's the big difference between me and the Liberals and the Conservative. We don't know what they believe in. They have to do polling. For me, you know that. And in a year from now, I will do some media like that and speak about our platform. I'm in a campaign right now. So I'm starting the campaign right now.
Don't take this the wrong way, okay?
Yeah.
Don't take
You're
this the wrong way.
You're a good guy, so I won't.
Don't take this the wrong way. Because your English is way better than my French.
Yeah.
But your English, is it good enough to be Prime Minister of Canada?
I think so. I think so.
But
I will have always that accent, and I won't be able to change that. But I can be a little bit better in grammatical rules sometime. And but yes, but the more I practice, the better I am. So
I know that they used to joke about Jean Chrétien not speaking either official language particularly well. Obviously, your French is impeccable. Your English is great.
Yeah, but I still have to improve. Every time that I'm doing an interview, I'm looking at the interview after that and listening what I said, and I try to correct my English. And the more interview I'll do, the better I'll be.
You know that in politics today, whenever a leader makes an announcement, there's always a big pack of people behind them. When you made your announcement, there was nobody with you.
Yes.
At what point should we expect to see some relatively big names up there with Maxime Bernier?
In a couple of weeks from now. That's the beginning of our party. My preoccupation right now is to build the head office of the party. We're doing that. It will be ready next week. And after that will be to the executive of the party. Who are these people with me at the executive of the party? You'll know that. I'll do another press conference, and maybe they will be with me, maybe not, because they're very prestigious Canadian and busy Canadian. Maybe they would be with me in Ottawa, maybe not. But yes, just wait and see, and a couple of weeks from now, you'll know the people who are running the party with me.
Any current Conservative MPs going to go with you?
No, and I don't try to have their support. Like I told you, I didn't have their support during the leadership.
Well, a few of them did. I think 5 of them did, didn't they?
Yeah, but 6. They decided 6, but they decided to stay with the Conservative Party. So the majority of them, they don't share our values, so I don't try to have them on board.
Okay. I'm going to ask you again, I'm going to ask your indulgence, because I'm going to ask one more question, which is, you know what your nickname is, right?
Yeah.
What do they call you?
Mad Max.
Mad Max, right, after that Mel Gibson movie. Do you like that nickname?
Yes.
Why?
Because I'm mad. I'm mad at the Liberal Party and the big deficit that they're doing.
Max,
I'm mad that we have a government in Ottawa that is interfering in provincial jurisdiction and don't respect the Constitution. I'm mad at the way that politicians are doing politics today. I'm mad that all the politicians in Ottawa, they want to fight for a special interest group and not fighting for the interests of the Canadian consumers in the file of supply management. I'm mad at all that. So yes, you can call me Mad Max.
Well, I won't call you that. I'll call you Monsieur Bernier, but I understand now that you don't take it as a bad one. You did win your seat by the largest margin of any Conservative MP, I think, in the Beauce.
Yeah.
You're very popular
Yes.
in Quebec.
Yeah.
Can you stretch that popularity to the rest of the country?
Yes, people in Alberta, they call me the Albertan from Quebec because we share the same values, the real free market conservative values.
Bring that up. Go ahead. Pick number 2. There's your logo, and there's the Reform Party logo. It's pretty close. Come on.
It's pretty close.
You got to admit, it's pretty close. So that's why they call you the Albertan from Quebec, eh?
But, and they like the ideas. And so, yes, I'm popular in Quebec in my writing, but I'm popular also all across the country. Because the way that we are doing politics is different. We don't try to please special interest group. And I'm not afraid to tell the truth to Canadians. What I think is the best policies are the best policies for this country. So we'll see, but...
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
On verra.
Yeah, on verra, yeah.
Exactement. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bernier.
C'est moi qui vous remercie.
Thank you for coming into TVO tonight to share your views. That's Maxime Bernier, leader of the new People's Party of Canada.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. Helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions.
会受到一些挑战，那么我们也不可能去补贴它，也不可能去补贴新的能源，但是在自由的经济里面呢，就说。
The leader of a party polling in the low single digits is doubling down tonight on his anti-vaccine message. And while Maxime Bernier operates on the fringe, as Manitoba Bureau Chief Joe Makashon explains, he still draws a crowd.
The admittedly unvaccinated Maxime Bernier has built a following in the pandemic, his People's Party of Canada campaigning on what he calls COVID freedom.
We are not anti-vaccine, we are not anti-mask, we are for freedom of choice. That's good. Freedom of choice.
Drawing in the disenfranchised, the skeptics, people who feel they've lost their voice and their rights in the pandemic.
And we should have a choice?
Just freedom of choice going forward.
With this here PPC party, of the People's Party of Canada, well, hey, we have our choice, we have our freedom.
The self-described Mad Max tour is seeing some of the largest crowds of the campaign, an estimated 5,000 at one Manitoba rally. He was arrested here last June for breaking public health laws.
When tyranny becomes law, revolution becomes our duty.
Bernier's signs were seen at the rally yesterday when gravel was thrown at Justin Trudeau, and one of his own candidates tweeted and deleted this about the Liberal leader. He deserves a much worse fate. I'm thinking Mussolini, who was killed by firing.
Mark Emery's PPC? No way. Are you serious? I am 100% voting for fucking the PPC if Mark Emery's fucking on the PPC. Get the fuck out of here. Holy fucking shit. I'm 100% fucking PPC, baby. Bring Mark home. Holy shit. Do you want to, dude? I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know who fucking Mark Emery is. This is fucking huge, man. Holy shit.
Squad.
I condemn every kind of violence, and I'm doing that, and I will always do it. But also, people have the right to express themselves peacefully. That's the most important.
Bernier himself was egged on the campaign trail last week. His party has promised to repeal vaccine mandates and lockdowns, and Bernier says they also support tax cuts, pipelines, and veterans.
We just want to unite everybody under the freedom umbrella, and we want to live our life like we did before COVID-19.
Bernier is also going after the Conservative leader, comparing Erin O'Toole to Trudeau on everything from the economy to the pandemic.
So he represents something completely different. It's like the fringe wing of the Conservative Party has created its own party.
And one more rally in Manitoba before Bernier leaves to continue campaigning in the East. A party leader without a seat, he will be trying to win back the Quebec riding he lost in the last election. Jill Mackishon, CTV News, Portage La Prairie, Manitoba.
Maxime Bernier says his main message is a fight for freedom.
There's a lot of people that are doing that fight with us,
including his supporters who protest at Justin Trudeau's rallies.
I want to show you this picture from last night, the Trudeau rally. Have you asked them, discourage them from doing that and denounce that?
No, I don't control these people, but they're doing that peacefully.
He said that Monday morning, but after gravel was thrown at Trudeau, Bernier tweeted, "Some idiot threw pebbles at Mr. Trudeau yesterday. I condemn it. Words are our weapons, but physical violence is always wrong." Bernier notes when he was egged last week in Saskatoon, none of the other leaders came to his defense.
If the people of Canada choose change, they can get change.
Bernier has become the political champion for some opponents of vaccination passports and mask mandates. He himself was charged for defying Manitoba public health orders in June when he failed to do a 2-week quarantine.
What if you're arrested again today?
I'm taking a chance, and we'll see. But if I have to go back to jail to defend our freedoms and the freedom of our Canadians, I'll do that.
In parts of Manitoba with the lowest vaccine uptake, that is very popular.
I want to stand up. I want to stand up for our freedoms in this country.
Maxime Bernier is the only politician out there who is talking about that.
So could he have an impact on Election Day?
I think in Ontario, especially where the Liberals and the Conservatives are close, the PPC could potentially drain votes from the Conservatives enough to let the Liberals get in. If this is going to be a minority parliament, and it probably will, that small number of seats could potentially make a difference.
Still, for a growing number of people, Bernier is giving voice to their concerns they hope he will take to Ottawa. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Despite cooler than forecast weather, People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier still drew a crowd of several hundred to Stewart Park Sunday afternoon. Many were carrying signs against vaccines and pandemic restrictions, and Bernier urged them to keep fighting.
Small business owners that are telling me it's not my job to be the police. And I'm welcoming everybody in my shop, in my restaurant, vaccinated ones or not vaccinated ones. We need more business people, more entrepreneurs like that won't play that game of segregation.
Bernier took aim at the Liberal and Conservative leaders, suggesting there is little difference between Justin Trudeau and Erin O'Toole.
I call the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party, I call them the LibCon Party. And they have one leader, Justin O'Toole.
There was a small scuffle out front of the stage during his speech, but it didn't appear to faze him. The People's Party leader had an egg smashed over his head at a campaign rally in Saskatoon on Thursday. He is the first of the 5 major party leaders to campaign in the Okanagan Valley since the federal election was called. Canadians go to the polls on September 20th. In Kelowna, Cindy White, Castanet.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon. Je vais d'abord faire une déclaration en anglais et puis je vais faire la même déclaration en français. I want to spend a few minutes explaining why
Maxime Bernier says his main message is a fight for freedom.
There's a lot of
Max, good luck to you.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, man. You're doing incredible.
Long time.
Yeah.
Are you with us now?
Max, I'm one of your chief donors. What a thing to say.
No, I'm teasing you.
Okay,
I'm teasing
good.
you. No,
Anyway, you're doing. I'm proud of you. I'm so proud.
I'm doing my best.
I've never heard you say anything I didn't love. You're running this campaign amazingly. You're the best thing to ever happen to us. Thank you so much.
I'm with longtime friend, associate, and fellow politician, collaborator.
It's good to see you, Robert. It's been a long time. I think we first met each other in probably about 1982?
85.
85, okay.
85,
so when
still.
Freedom Party was really rolling, kind of the early peak.
Now, Marc, the Principat, has the dubious honor, I would say, of probably supporting every single political party in this country, provincially and federally.
I can list them up, but I've never voted for the Conservative Party, ever.
No.
But I voted for the Marijuana Party, the Green Party, the NDP, the Liberals, and certainly the Freedom Party in the 80s, the Un-Party once. I don't think there's been any, and the BC Marijuana Party, I found it. So lots. I've been everywhere.
Now, what about the PPC? Your impressions?
I'm giving the maximum to candidates, giving the maximum to I love Max, known Max for 3 years. I was at the Conservative Leadership Convention. So I was there, I bought a membership, I supported Max, I watched him get robbed of the leadership, but I had never voted for them in an actual election, and of course I'm never going to. But now I'm pretty convinced. The Green Party, NDP, and the Liberals, Conservative, horrible collectivist parties, just rapacious spending proposals. I've never seen such a gluttony of politicians, ripping off the taxpayer gratuitously day after day after day with new promises of spending. And young people are out on the street talking about saving the planet from a climate emergency. They will have no resources left because the one thing the old people really did do and screw up is they spent those kids into near bankruptcy. There's going to be no money that the government, everything will go to the deficit and the debt. These young people are going to be paying these fabulous whopping sums for a debt, and they won't have the resources to do the things they may need to do because we have committed to spending so much money, this older generation, that we have fucked those kids over budgetarily and economically. But as to the environment, we've left them a fabulous planet to work with.
Now, again, you've shifted from party to party to party. Is there anything in the PPC that may give you pause to think that at some point in the future you would abandon the PPC as well?
No, like every single platform plank, I think we need to have much less immigration because all those people are going to the city, my city, Toronto, and it's sending rents up. I'm a normal middle-class guy, but my rents are going up. The pressure on property everywhere is tremendous. 350,000 new people each year, all seeking accommodation, and largely going to Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. That is not sustainable, at least not for ordinary people who make $13, $14, $15, $20 an hour, right? So I look at the immigration strictly from an economic. We need to lower the amount of pressure put on a market that's tightly rent controlled. Toronto's very rent controlled. So it's not like there's a free market to accommodate these kind of demands because immigrants do make contributions. In the long run, they're a tremendous asset to the country. But initially, they settle when they have very few resources in big cities to be near their culture, the people they know, and that's putting tremendous pressure on Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, where for a normal young person especially, again, it's not sustainable for them. They can't live in a city and work in a city with this much pressure on rents. And when I look at, and of course, crony capitalism is a misnomer. It's crony statism.
Or just cronyism.
Cronyism. And that, of course, we need to abolish all corporate welfare, level the playing field honestly and totally, get rid of all government interference in business. We need to deregulate so many sectors. We need to end the Indian Act. We need to give Native people property rights on those reserves. We need to break up those reserves into private property units that each individual First Nation person can do something with, have an asset, and build from there. So, I actually, of course, subscribe to a much more radical platform, but I'm content with the entire platform that the PPC has. I agree with everything. I've never heard Max ever say anything, and I follow him daily, ever say anything I disagree with.
Well, I hope you finally settle on a political party that you can stay with for some length of time.
I was a founding member. I've given the maximum each year. I just gave the guy from Guelph $100. I'm giving $1,600 to Canada, $1,600 to the party for the election. I'm doing what I can. I'm holding up signs at intersections for candidates, right? And in the past, and even though Max hasn't articulated a cannabis party, he will once he gets re-elected. It's really important to get Max elected at his seat in Beauce, because then we have a voice for 4 years.
Right. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah,
and
Robert, good to
see you again.
Yeah, say hi to Robert.
What do you think of Erin O'Toole's rebuttal to the vaccine passport by saying that Canadians should be able to get on their buses, planes, and trains, but only if they show a negative test for the COVID? I mean, what are you supposed to do? Get on a train and have a test, a quick test, and get on there? I mean, isn't that just as draconian?
It is. It is, because the cost of these tests are there. It's about $250 for a test, so you'll need to do a test every time that you want to travel. But it's irrelevant now if you are vaccinated or not vaccinated. It is irrelevant because everybody will have to show their papers. The vaccinated ones will have to show their vaccine passport. And by the way, the expiration date of the vaccine passport is it will be the next December, because if you have only 2 shots, your vaccine passport will expire, because they will ask you to have the 3rd shots. So there's an expiration date. Every time you'll have to come back and have a new vaccine passport, because you'll have to have another shots. Justin Trudeau bought for $60 million the booster shots until 2024. So your vaccine passport will be good, but only for a short time. And so the people who decided not to have the vaccine will have to show papers also, like you just said, maybe a negative COVID test before taking the plane, before taking the train, before taking a bus. Everybody will have to show their papers. And that's why I said I don't want a show me your papers society. We are in a free society. I will show my passport when I'm traveling and I'm crossing the border to come back in Canada, to go in another country, but I don't want to show any papers when I'm traveling across this country. I have the constitutional rights to travel without showing anybody. And actually, my personal health information must be private and personal. Now, everybody will know with your vaccine passport some of your private information. It is not in line with our democracy, and that's why I believe that more and more people will be on our side.
Erin O'Toole and the Conservative Party have put out policy platforms recently, just to go into another area here, where they are extreme, well, this is my personal opinion, they're extreme left-wing views, for example, forcing some corporations to put workers on their board of directors, paying for new hires for the first 6 months, 25% of their salary. Your thoughts on this extreme leftist policies of the Conservative Party of Canada?
But that's why I said, this party is not conservative anymore. This party is conservative only by name. O'Toole is a leftist, and that's another example. Actually, if you if you want to impose what a private corporation must do, and you want to give subsidies to people that will start a new job, so what about all these people that are paying tax right now? You are telling them, yes, pay taxes and we'll give your money to another person. We don't want that. We don't have the money for that, first. And second, a private corporation must be able to decide who's going to be on their board. That's not the government. That's socialism, that's leftist, and that's in line with woke culture. And that's why O'Toole and Trudeau are the same on a lot of issues. And on that one, they believe in socialism and more government intervention in your day-to-day life. We believe in less government. We have faith in people. We believe that people know better than me as a politician or bureaucrat in Ottawa what to do with their life. But with O'Toole, it would be more bureaucracy, more civil servants, more regulations, more taxes, like Trudeau.
Now, finally, because I know there's a lot of people here who want to speak to you, the Afghan situation, they've left 2,000 either Canadians or Afghan allies in Kabul with no way to get out by the Canadian government. We've had a minister of the Canadian government talk about the Taliban as her brothers. Your response?
It's irresponsible. It is, we fought them. They don't share our same values. Every culture are not the same. And the Western civilization culture is very different than the Taliban's one. And sorry, they're not our brothers. They don't, everybody must be equal before the law. Men and women are equal, but in their society, it is not that. So it's a shame that we still have people that help us, that are in Afghanistan, that share Canadian values and help Canadian forces, and they cannot come to our country. But Trudeau is opening the doors for 20,000 of them that we don't know. Why, opening our doors to 20,000 people coming from Afghanistan? We maybe only 2,000 of them help us and share our values. So it's always, open borders, open borders, open borders. We need to help people that help us first.
Thank you very much, Maxime, and bonne chance.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
I think we're gonna end with that hype guy. Remember that hype guy that we saw? That guy was so hype. The guy from Nepean. That was the most hype video I think I've ever seen. Let's end this workout session on that video. Yo, Mark Emery, part of the People's Party. Yeah, baby. He's a candidate in BC, I think, or in Toronto, I think. I subscribe to the channel, it's somewhere here. Oh no, it was 3 days ago. Fuck, it's somewhere here. I'll find it really quick. Oh, man. It's bad. What is this video, man?
Think for myself and I won't do what they say. Well, I think for myself and I won't do what they say.
I had to join this fight for freedom, and that's the reason I'm in. And if I didn't do this, my conscience would bother me till the rest of my days, for the rest of my days. So here we are. The whole fight is about freedom, and how do we get freedom?
We have Jay Nera from Nepean. Give it up for Jay.
Hi guys, so my name's Jay Nera from the Nepean riding, and I got a bone to pick. I'm running because I want to be able to look my son in the eyes and to tell him that I fought for his freedom. Anytime we're dealing with compromise, any compromises, we have to ask ourselves, where do you draw the line? Right now, a sense of security and safety versus freedom. That's the question, that's the compromise. Where do you draw the line? 2 weeks to flatten the curve, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to flatten the curve, 5 weeks, 2 months. Where do you draw the line? A second lockdown? A third lockdown? Why not a fourth lockdown? Where do you draw the line? Just until the vulnerable are vaccinated, just until 70%, 85%, 90%, everybody has to get vaccinated, the kids, them too. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? 1 dose? 2 doses? Let's go for a third dose? 4, 5, 6? How many boosters? Every 3, 4 months? Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? It's been a slippery slope the last 18 months.
Yes.
We've gone from 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and now they want to say, show me your papers.
Yes.
That's a pretty serious line.
Yes.
That's a very serious line to stop and defend. We're talking about our kids. This isn't just us. You can be apathetic, but we got kids, they have futures. You want to go to school? Show me your papers. You want to play sports? Show me your papers. You want to go to a birthday party? Sorry, you didn't have your booster shot. You can't participate.
Oh, that's right, sir.
This is our kids. This is a serious line. This is
right.
a cliff. We're talking about a slippery slope. We're at a cliff. We're about to fall off. Once we fall off, it's not going to be easy to get back up, folks.
Oh, he's
So
right.
now we're asking for a more serious question. It's not just where do you draw the line. The question is, what are you willing to do to defend that line? I care about this. This is a big friggin' deal. And I got fire in here. I hope you guys got the same fire. I hope you feel it. Standing shoulder to shoulder. I hope you got that fire in your bellies. What are you willing to do? You gonna vote? Yeah, I know you guys are gonna vote. We're all here, everyone here. We're all awake. We know what's going on. But we gotta take a little bit more. This is an information war.
He is
We're
right.
not even in the debates. They don't want us spreading information. I'm censored on my big tech has all my social media censored. Can't get messages out. Can't put ads up on Facebook. We need you guys to share posts, memes. Get out, get on your lawn. Yell PPC. The purple wave is huge across Canada right now.
He's right.
Ottawa, Gatineau, this area, we know it doesn't swing the right way. There's a lot of liberal-minded people here, a lot of government employees who are happy sitting at home, wearing their pajamas with their government jobs, getting paid to go to Costco. They're just comfortable. They're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about our children's futures. They're not thinking about anyone else's futures. We have to ignite that fire in people that lets them know what's on the line.
Yes,
We have to be willing to yell from the top of our lungs that this is a line we need to defend.
Yes, sir.
Talk about strong and free. We hear that. PPC, strong and free. We hear it in our anthem, strong and free.
He's right.
Do you know why strong and free go together? Because you can't have freedom if you're not strong. Past Canadians had to step up for our freedom.
Freedom!
And now it's us. We have to defend our freedom.
Yes, sir! Yes, he's right!
We have to be strong and free.
What's up now? What's
Thank
up?
you.
You're right! He's right!